I'd like to call the February 17th meeting of the Johnston County Board of Commissioners to order and welcome all of you here tonight to be with us. And I think there's some in the hall too, so welcome to them. And also welcome to those who are watching on our YouTube live stream, so welcome. And those will be watching in the future as well. I did want to reference our 6 priorities that the board established. They are educational funding, infrastructure, financial stewardship, land use, public safety, and the ones that make that all happen are county employees. As is customary, we open with an invocation, which I've asked Commissioner Davis to lead us in that tonight, and we will follow that with a pledge by Commissioner Godwin. So if you choose to stand during an invocation, please do so now and remain standing for the pledge.
Everybody just bow their heads. Thank you, Lord, for this day and all of your blessings. Thank you for everyone here today, and please be with us and guide us as we help make decisions for the county. And please be with us as we help make the decisions for you and all that we can do. In your name we pray. Amen.
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 Amen. Please face the flag. If you're a veteran, you are authorized to salute. Pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Be seated. All right, the first little announcement, we have had ballots for the Economic Development Advisory Board appointments at each one of our seats. We have completed those. There are 3 positions open with 4 applicants. They are representing the areas of Archer Lodge, Clayton, and Selma. If you would complete your ballots, and which you already have done, and turn them over to the deputy clerk. Later in the meeting, we will announce the results of that vote. Next, we move on to the first item in the agenda, which is approval of the agenda. I know we have some adjustments, so.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the agenda with the following changes. Item number 7 would be moved to become item 3A, the Johnston County Schools, and then item number 13, Neuse Charter School discussion, would be after public comment, which would become item number 4A.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Agenda is approved. Next up, we have the consent agenda. We have, I think, 7 items tonight to consider approving. They are appointment of our EMS medical director, temporary approval of the North State Medical Transport, resolutions regarding annexation of property in the Johnston County Research Training Zone, amendment to the Economic Development Incentive Agreement with Copper Land in Clayton, a resolution supporting the new roundabout project at Buffalo Road, Fire Department Road, and Little Divine Road. And we also have a request for positions from the Johnston County Inspections Department. And we have 4 budget adjustments, one for the jail, the Sheriff's Department, the RTZ, for some HVAC upgrades, and then a special appropriations for a grant for JCATS, which has become traditional. That's a little earlier in the cycle than we do our budget, so that's the reason it's in here instead of in our budget cycle. So those are the items for the consent agenda. Any item need to be discussed further or removed from the agenda?
I move that be approved as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor of approval of the consent agenda as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion carries. All right, next up, we have the State of the County address. It says by the chairman, but the vice chairman had a role in that, and I really wanted to, it's Johnston County is a great place to live, and a lot of things going on, and to try to summarize that in a video is hard to do. But we have PIO staff, Ben and Adam are as good as any out there, and they, in my opinion, despite the one of us being in, I can't speak for the other being, it is a quality video. I think it summarizes what we've accomplished in the last year. So, Adam or Ben, if you would roll that beautiful footage.
Knew you were going to say that.
My name is Butch Lauder. I'm chairman of the Johnston County Commissioners. I'd like to welcome you to the 2025 State of the County. Tony would be proud of two things. First, he had a heart for parks and recreation and the greenways that run throughout the county. He would be proud of being a consistent fighter for the taxpayer. He was a great mentor for me, and I'm sure he is for other commissioners. Mr. Stovall was duly elected in November. We added Michelle Pace Davis, and we recently appointed Mike Rose of Princeton. So it brings a new dynamic of three people with ideas on what's important to the county. We established priorities a couple of years ago, and they are public safety, infrastructure, education, land use, fiscal responsibility, and finally, our county employees. Our funding level for education has grown tremendously, and infrastructure is leading the way for our future. Public safety, we recently completed
sure that each department had the resources to provide the service. As a result, we have daytime staffing in most every station in Johnston County. It allows us to have resources to the citizens quickly in order to help save lives. We opened our wastewater treatment facility on 210. 4 million gallons opened up middle of 24. We also had the Timothy Broome water treatment plant, which started expansion this year in 24. Should be completed mid-25. What we did was actually eliminate the decal fee with two things in mind. One, that it would help control the amount of litter on the side of the roads, and also that it was just to work that out to where we did not raise any taxes or fees. We didn't put any assessments on anyone's tax bill, and a lot of people were very happy about that. Well, one of the goals in the comprehensive transportation plan is to improve connectivity throughout the county. We've had opportunities through JCATS to do the rapid transit, quick transit rides, which has been very successful. One of our goals is to provide connectivity for every citizen in the county to be mobile and to have an opportunity to get the places they need to go at a reasonable cost. In 2024, we really strengthened our partnership with the Triangle Land Conservancy, putting an emphasis on the greenways and open space preservation and creation. It's about quality of life for our citizens. We're going to continue to work diligently to try to preserve as much of the farmland and open space, agricultural parts of our county as we possibly can. Johnston County is a welcoming place to be. We bring in businesses and people who are creating jobs for our citizens. And so doing that, it also has raised the median income for the citizens here in Johnston County. And that was our goal. The county continues to lead the way in economic development, highlighted by historic $4.1 billion investment by Novo Nordisk, the largest pharmaceutical investment in North Carolina's history.
projects such as Crystal Windows and Doors. VT Rice and Selma are adding over $135 million in investment and 625 quality manufacturing jobs.
The upcoming Advanced Manufacturing Training Center in Four Oaks, which will be opening in 2025, will position Johnston County for sustained industrial growth and job creation. So I think that we've shown a great track record as a board and as a county of looking after the people's money and spending it wisely. The years and decades of improving our financial position, the needs of the county, we're going to spend that money wisely and continue that 20-year history of improving our financial position. The disaster relief effort to help the folks in Western North Carolina means a lot to me, being born in Batcave, kind of the heart of where you see a lot of the reports coming from, to know that the people in Johnston County came together, 16 tractor trailer loads of supplies went to Henderson County. I'm so proud of the people here for putting together, loads and loads of supplies to go and to send up there, and the sheriff and his team and all the citizens in the county who donated, money and goods, and and that's what we need to do.
we took action, and I think that's what the people of Johnston County are all about.
Thank you for joining us for the State of the County address. I'm happy to report to you today that the state of the county is strong. We are blessed to have the opportunity to live in one of the greatest counties in North Carolina. Thank you so much for joining us, and God bless you.
Very uncomfortable watching yourself. That's all I got to say.
Absolutely.
Any other, again, thanks to our PIO staff and the rest of the staff who helped to put all this together, and again, to the county employees who are the ones actually out there making the things happen on a daily basis and interacting with the public. Any other comments from the rest of the board?
They didn't have much to work with, but they did a good job.
Very true, very true.
No, y'all did a good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we will have public comment, and I will say, is there anyone here not associated with Neuse Charter? Okay, we'll jump right to it then.
We were going to do Johnston County Public.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I didn't change it on there.
That's all right.
So sorry, I guess if you'll have Lynn and Brooks come in. We will discuss, hang on, let me see what the actual name of the item is here.
Clayton High School.
Clayton High School.
Thank you.
Item 6.
Too many pages. Oh, yeah, go ahead, Lynn. Sorry.
Good evening.
evening.
Thank
Good
you,
evening.
Chairman Lauder, Vice Chair Harris, and the rest of the board. Thanks for having us here. Thanks you for working with us on our schedule. As you well know, we have been in communication with you with our exciting rebuild of Clayton High School on the current campus of Clayton High School. As you well know, we did design interviews. Many of you were a part of that. We also went back as a board at our last board meeting, and we selected Barnhill as the company that will do our design. And so I'm going to turn it over to Brooks right now. We told you we'd be coming back, so I'm going to have Brooks come and just present to you what our next step will be.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, everyone, once again.
Good evening.
So as the Clayton High School project progresses, as Ms. Andrews mentioned, we have picked the Barnhill LS3P Architects Design Build Team. And our immediate focus is on due diligence of that site, so survey and underground utilities, because they are everywhere. Mentioned last time, there's 23 services to that site, so a full traffic study to understand where all the students and parents and buses and all come and go. Also with that, so with that, we are requesting a not to exceed amount of $5 million to handle that, but then also to begin and get well down the way on the design process, which includes lots of collaboration with the town of Clayton. And also with these funds, it's our goal to go ahead in the meantime and replace the grandstand, the home side grandstand bleachers to high school athletic association capacity standards, and incorporate a modular press box within those bleachers as well.
All right.
That's all.
So you mentioned, so the due diligence in the not to exceed request of
Yes, sir.
$5 million? Okay.
Yes.
I think the due diligence is about $390,000.
Okay.
390. Yep.
Something like
Okay. I just didn't know if that was separate or part of that. Okay. Any questions for Ms. Andrews or Mr. Moore? I know, and I do want to thank the school system for allowing 3 commissioners to sit in to be a part of that selection process. It was a long day, but I think it was well worth it. I'd say there was 4 good teams that y'all had to choose from, and I'm glad it was y'all making the decision. It was a very hard decision, but I do think Barnhill will do a great job there on Clayton High School. So with that, I'll turn it over for.
This would be considered part of the overall project cost.
Yes.
That's correct.
Is it all? Yeah. Like the first installment.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Any other questions?
To get off of start, I move that we approve the request.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. I do believe we have some discussion.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to echo what you said to the Madam Chairman and Brooks Moore. We appreciate the opportunity to be included in the selection process. I applaud the selection of the team that you have, Barnhill and LS3P. There were 4 good teams there, but to me, from my professional experience, they offered the most potential to control budget, schedule, and have a full understanding of the school system's needs. I think that was an excellent choice, and that will provide a result that you'd all be proud of. I also want to say that that type of leadership is going to give confidence to the financial markets that are going to fund this thing. All of these projects are being financed with some type of bond, and the bond market looks at the stability of projects, and that's what determines the ultimate rate and how well they sell. So I think projecting that you're in control of the situation and it's going to be well managed is critical to ensuring that we get the best financing available.
All right, anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, I would just add, and I agree with Commissioner Stovall, it was a long day, but it was very productive, and I agree the company that you chose, I think, will do an extraordinary job in providing the service for Clayton. But on a larger scale, I just want to tell you how much I appreciate the cooperation and the cooperative nature that these boards are working together. That's really makes life a lot easier and allows us to be able to move projects forward and move things forward. So thank you for your willingness to work together with the commissioners and try to be on the same page and moving forward with things. So, Madam Chair, thank you, and Brooks, thank you as well.
We appreciate you because, this is about students.
Yeah.
This is about young people, and so this opportunity you're given, there's an excited group of community of Clayton. That's very great.
All right, anyone else? All right, so we have a motion and a second to approve the request for $5 million for design, and that's in a not-to-exceed number. So all those in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Mr. Hester, did you have a quick comment on that?
Yes, sir. I would
Clarification
just
for us?
like to mention to the board, at the next agenda, we would like to have a reimbursement resolution on there so we can recoup those funds once we have gone through the appropriate loan process.
Yes.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, so we are back on track for public comment, and usually this is a place where we say, no, these are not items on the agenda, but it is. And so with that in mind, I just remind everyone that public comment is 3 minutes each, so if you would adhere to that and also keep your comments cordial and on topic, which I think y'all probably will. We'll proceed on. So when you come up, if you would state your name and your town or township, and if you're with the school, what maybe your role is for us, so we'll know that. And if you would, then I would say, come on up. Don't be shy.
Good evening, guys. How are y'all?
Good evening.
Good, good. My name is Elizabeth Massengill, and I'm from 4 Oaks, North Carolina, here in Johnston County, and I'm a parent at Neuse Charter School. I stand here tonight representing many families who share our deep appreciation for Neuse. We are a united group of parents passionate about the incredible education our children are receiving. Our kids mean the world to us, and we believe that Neuse Charter School is providing them with the tools they need to thrive. We chose Neuse Charter for a specific reason. My daughter Rachel is a prime example. At the end of her 4th grade year, we faced a difficult decision about moving her from Johnston County Public Schools. This decision was not due to her failing. In fact, she wasn't failing at all. Instead, we noticed that she wasn't thriving. As a teacher who worked just down the hall from her, I saw the signs. She was becoming another data point, lost in the system, and her love for learning was beginning to fade. We entered Neuse Charter School lottery, hoping for a chance, and fortunately, she was accepted. That decision changed everything. At Neuse, Rachel is more than just a number. She's a valued individual. The teachers know her, understand her learning style, and nurture her passion for learning. The smaller class sizes make a significant difference. She receives the individualized attention she needs and is surrounded by a supportive community. She's no longer just surviving in school. She's truly thriving. We see it in her excitement about going to school every day, her growing confidence, and her academic achievements. We are here tonight to express how much we value Neuse Charter School and how important it is to our county. This isn't just a school. It's a vital part of our children's lives and their futures. It is a place where parents, teachers, and students collaborate to create an exceptional learning environment. It's a place where our children feel safe and supported and encouraged to reach their full potentials. As a mother, a former Johnston County public school teacher, and a taxpayer, I know this board has been a strong supporter of education and for the opportunities of that education to the children in our county. So tonight, we are asking for the same support for Neuse Charter School. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Massengill. Next.
All right.
So I just had, so is there any, so I had some other names on here. Is that it? I don't know, I think he's checking. I don't
He's
have-
checking.
Yeah, he's checking. There's no more in the hall, so any, so any, is there anyone else? I don't know why I'm looking at you, but. But you can, you might as well come on up and say, yeah, I was gonna say, don't pass up an opportunity, eh?
Well, this is completely unprepared.
So I'm
Good
sure you'll do
evening,
fine.
everybody. Dr. Blackwell, Superintendent. You know, it's been a minute. We've been fighting this fight. We've been advocating for our kids, and I'm very hopeful. I'm very grateful that you continue to give us space to come up and speak and advocate for our students. As a reminder, 98% of Neuse Charter School's student population resides in Johnston County. 98% of 916 children. And all of their parents are taxpayers too. So we're hopeful for this discussion this evening. Again, thank you for giving us the space. We
Can I ask
appreciate
some
it.
questions?
So if we, can we, what I wanted to do is, yeah, we'll get through the public comment. I think Mr. Hester's going to address an issue, or Ms. Slusser, and then we'll probably, if we have questions, sounds like we're going to call you back up.
I'll be right there.
Okay. Thank you. So let me finish the public comment. So if there's one last chance for anybody. All right, and I will say, Madam Clerk, the emails, no other emails for the public comment. Okay. So we will now move on to the Neuse Charter School discussion. And Mr. Hester, do you have some kind of updates and let us know how we got to
Yes, sir.
where we are today?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. Just wanted to give us recap. And if I am in error, I hope I will be correct. Don't need dates. It's okay. So back in a year ago, on February the 5th, 2024, Neuse Charter made a presentation request for funding. And in that presentation, I'm just summarizing that they discussed primarily a school at $8 million, and then there was also athletic facilities, I think, were another $8 million. And I think, let me go back one step. In 2023, state law changed about county commissioners and responsibilities for providing capital funds. As you know, counties have been, are responsible for traditional public school capital fund. And then in 2023, the law changed to say counties may support charter school with capital funds. That's not exactly how it says, but may is the word for it. So again, Neuse Charter came in about a year ago, February 5th, 2024. Then on September of 24, made another presentation with, again, the school, 2 projects, and then the athletic facilities. And then last board meeting, there was another presentation. I think the main emphasis, and I may be wrong, but the main emphasis on those prior presentations was the school at the $8 million. And I think at the last board meeting, the request was 16, which gets into the school and the athletic facility. So that's just kind of a chronological order of things. So, and if I have, sure? Okay, all right. So anyway, does that help?
I think it does, and Commissioner Godwin, since you started, do you want to go ahead and
Oh, I've got
ask some questions? Yeah, yeah.
Dr. Blackwell.
So,
Yeah, I tried to get in touch with y'all today, but I guess this was not a school day, was it? It was late. How many students will be affected by the elementary? That's what you're looking for, right?
Mm-hmm.
Elementary facility. How many students in that?
450.
How many?
450.
I got you. All right. And that facility, I've seen it out there on the ground where it's going to go. What's the cost of that? Just that building?
Well, initially, it was about $8 million. Since then, the interest rates have risen. We're now between $9.5 to $10 million.
I got you. Okay. Okay. That was my question, Mr. Chairman.
all right. Any other questions?
To follow up with Commissioner Godwin's, is that classrooms or is there anything else added in that building or what else? Is it just classrooms?
Classrooms and bathrooms.
Classrooms and
No bells, no whistles.
All right. Any other questions?
How many classrooms would that be, and about how many square feet is the whole building?
I love that you asked that question. There's about 24 classrooms. And I believe the square footage is, I can't remember. Anybody help me out? I cannot remember the answer to that. Thank you. Board member guy. Whew, 25,000.
We all need one of those.
Yes.
That was better than the phone a friend, you know.
It's our board treasurer, Jason Geib, everybody.
Dr. Blackwell, where do you get your current funding from?
Well, we get no capital funding, so any money that we want to use to do any kind of renovation or new construction, we have to save it out of our allocations for our children every year.
And that's how you've been able to build what you have so far.
And then we've also, the building itself would be funded through an outsourced loan, USDA.
Thank you.
Any other questions? So I'll ask, so there was, and my memory's not the best, but it seems like the first time you came, the ask was not for a total of 8, but it seems to be at least some potential for something less than that would have helped. And so as I understand, like here tonight, you're looking for the whole 16 million. There's not an option for something less. Am I misunderstanding?
Yeah, 16 million.
Okay. Yeah, I just knew,
Yeah.
I thought there was something in there.
And
I didn't know if there was a reason.
well, I think maybe the reason is just that the school's been in operation for 18 years. And there's been really very little we could do to get our students out of trailers. And all we're trying to do is replace the square footage Every year we stay in those trailers. They used to be called educational cottages, but they're just trailers. They're just trailers. They continue to diminish in value and in quality.
How old are those trailers?
18 years.
Okay.
So would the 16 million go to our athletics, or is that just to make sure the classrooms are fully funded? Since you said the budget for that would be about 10.
The classrooms, the building itself would be about 10.
Okay.
And we have no athletic facilities.
Okay.
And our students have never played a home game in soccer or baseball, softball, any kind of outdoor sports. We have to lean on someone else that would graciously allow us to use their facilities, and that includes the town of Smithfield.
I would just like to say there's no doubt that Neuse does an amazing job. You know, I know children that go there. I know families that are blessed by what Neuse does, without a doubt. I personally am excited to see, you know, a potential more future, I'm just going to call it partnerships, because that's what I feel like we are with the public schools. When I first came on the board, that was one of my biggest things is if we are the funding source, why is there not a more collaborative effort? And I think especially over the past decade, but definitely within the last 5 years, I would say there's been a huge collaborative effort that I think has made a big difference in how things get funded. All of that to say all that, I'm a big proponent of the school and what it does for our community. It's just hard when there are so many other things that we have to fund. And it's hard for myself. Now, keep in mind, I never even applied for my daughter to go to Neuse Charter, but had an amazing experience in all of our Johnston County schools, you know, from K to she graduated. And so it's hard for me to spend other people's taxpayer money on a charter school. But with that being said, I do feel like there's a place that we could try to find a way to support the charter school. I'll be honest, I don't feel like 16 million is in our budget. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to know as well, like, is a lesser amount going to make a difference? Will it help? You know, I'd love to see this kind of be the start to something that we can do. But I think it's really hard as not a first time ask, because I know it's not a first time ask, but you know what I mean, as a first handshake in the partnership, if you will, to do something. But I'm having a hard time with the 16 million, just with all the other things that we have ahead of us.
Of course. Absolutely, I understand that.
This budget season and others.
I would say to that, I believe there was a discussion back in the summer between our attorney and the county attorney about what we could do to accept a lesser amount and managing deeds. And I'm not really sure where that conversation ended in terms of any agreements or understandings. Let me be real clear, though. I will not turn down any money for any children at our school. 16 million is the goal. I dream big. I was also born and raised in Johnston County, so I blame Johnston County for that. Because I've seen great things happen. I've seen amazing things happen. I've seen unexpected things happen in this county. And I, too, I'm educated in Johnston County Public Schools. I am a graduate of JCPS and JCC. So I, too, had great experiences in both. But I do think that there's a space for kids that necessarily don't fit into certain classrooms elsewhere. And I'm proud of the fact that we're able to offer that. But again, I'm not in a position to turn down any money for our children.
I had one more question. The newest building there, that's the 3-story building now, how is that funded?
That was funded through traditional loans.
Okay.
And in all honesty, whenever that building was completed, it was a little more expensive than the school had planned, and that there was some financial probation issues that came from it. We were able to pull ourselves out of it and continue to have six-figure surpluses every year since I've been there. But prior to that, it was a very expensive undertaking, and it was very difficult for the school to manage on its own.
Anything else?
In the middle of a budget year, in the middle of the year, it's difficult to reach out and fund something of this size. But as we approach the budget for the next year, I would not be opposed to considering something. I'm thinking along the original ask in that $8 to $9 million range for that building. 916 students, if they weren't there, they'd be at JC Public Schools reps. And that's a school. You know, we're building Swift Creek Elementary, 900-some students, costing $44 million. So, of course, it's apples and oranges, but
Sure.
I wouldn't be opposed to, let's look at putting that in the budget this year. I know we got a lot of things going on. We're not talking about paying it in 1 year, you know.
So I did have a question, not so much of you, but I know we're talking a local nonprofit charter school. We have other charter schools don't fall in, and I'll say 18-year history. We have other charter schools that don't fit any of those three categories, and what does it open? And I'm looking at our attorney, Ms. Lesser, there to help guide us as we step off on that slippery slope is what we're opening up there potentially.
So, Mr. Chairman, to address that, the statute doesn't differentiate between a for-profit or nonprofit charter school. It just says counties may provide funds to charter schools by direct appropriation as set forth in the statute, and then it describes how the funds can be used. And obviously, the acquisition of real property and the construction and renovation of school buildings and athletic facilities is permitted. One of the things that that would have to be looked at for anybody who was funded, any charter school that was funded, is with regards to doing a promissory note, deed of trust, that sort of thing, because the county would have an interest, a security interest in that particular project, and that is what I had discussed with representatives from Neuse Charter previously, that a security interest would be required for an appropriation. But, you know, with regards to, you know, there's two things that I wanted to point out. You're mandated by law that you have to fund the traditional public school. In 2023, the door was opened that you may provide funds to charter schools by direct appropriation. So one is a mandate, the other is permission. And you're only allowed to do, as a county, for anything, what the legislature gives you the authority to do. And so that, but to answer your question about opening the door, I mean, the door's open now with the statute the way that it's written because it says may. And you have discretion with regards to funding various sources, but certainly I would imagine you'll see additional funding requests come in. No different in a lot of ways than when we did nonprofit funding grant applications the first year. We didn't get as many. The second time we got more. So that would be my thought about it. But certainly you have the opportunity to use your discretion in what you choose to fund.
I've got two questions.
Okay.
Thank you. For the money, what the request, does that already include the design, build, and layout and all of those associated costs, or has those already been done?
It's all included.
Okay. And then also with the public comment record, how many people are here tonight in support of Neuse Charter? Okay.
I believe there's about 50.
50
There was
people?
about 50 when I came in here.
Okay.
I'm not sure how many are out there now because they were expecting to be at the end.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
I think we squeezed 19 in here, I think was what the deputy had said would fit in here. So.
Small roar, so I'm sure
Yeah.
it's more than 50 now.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Mr. Chairman, and this may be something for Ms. Lesser as well, is this something that would fall under our guidelines that we do have currently for nonprofits that come during budget season?
You could. I think I would look at this one a little bit differently because typically what we're funding on the nonprofit funds are not statutorily authorized in the same way as this is, so the evaluation criteria would look different for what is required and those sorts of things to execute the plan. But certainly, if the board was needed additional information and wanted to score a project in the same way that you score the other nonprofit requests, you could. I'm thinking about other capital expenditures that we've done that are of this type of significant size. We did not do that with the Advanced Manufacturer Training Center with the community college, but certainly typically we look at those nonprofit funding agreements as services that the county has the authority to provide, but typically it's more efficient and cost effective to have the private sector do it for us.
Thank you.
All right. I heard Excel means something's coming, so let's go.
Something's coming. Mr. Chairman, I've just got some thoughts. And first, let me say I appreciate your dedication to your cause. I mean, you have fought very hard, and you've provided a lot of great information. And all the folks that are here, thank y'all for coming. It's really, you're standing up for what you believe, and I respect that, and I think that's fantastic. I think, just as a board member, I'm going to speak for just a moment. I would recommend that if the board is inclined to want to do something to help Neuse Charter, and it sounds like that may be the case, and I don't know what that looks like, but I would recommend that we include that in the models that our finance director is running currently, because right now we're in a reval year, and I know you need an answer yesterday, and I get that, but we've got a lot of things that are moving, and this is just a suggestion, but I would calculate this in to decide what is it going to look like? You know, I mean, it's one thing to say we'll do $2 million or $6 million or $8 million or whatever, but that's got to factor in with all the other debt that the county has taken on and is taking on, and so it's a big picture approach. Now, Mr. McLam is working on models right now on funding to decide what our tax rate's going to look like, to decide what our debt service is going to look like going forward. We just had bond rating meetings. Mr. Godwin and I were involved in that. And so it's a complex issue, and we just need to be sure that what we're doing is something that's sustainable for the people, and that we meet the expectation that the people have of their tax dollars at work. And so I know that you need an answer, and I respect that. But if the board is inclined to want to fund something for Neuse Charter, I would recommend that we start building that into the financial models, and then if an appropriation was done, it would be effective July 1.
It's part of the normal budget
Part of the
process.
normal budget process.
I would agree with that.
Because to do something, to bring it to a vote right this second, we don't have any idea how this is going to affect all the other stuff. We're still getting our hands around, what the ad valorem tax rate's going to look like. We're looking at fire tax rates. We're looking at the infrastructure costs of the buildings that we have to build, the health department and the DSS building. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And that's fine. I mean, it's a big county. We're growing. I get it. That's part of it. But I think in order to be prudent and provide good oversight to what we're doing, we just need to methodically go through this process. And I think that would be a good way to do that. We can factor in, and then that gives the board an opportunity to look at different levels of things. In other words, let's look at 5 million, let's look at 8 million, look at 16 million, see what that looks like in the overall big picture of the county's finances. Because ultimately, it's I guess it's easy to vote for it, but then it's got to be paid for, and the citizens are on the hook for it when we pay that debt service on it. So that's just my input, Mr. Chairman, and I'll certainly whatever the board wants to do.
And Mr. Harris, if I might add, Mr. McClam and I were just having the conversation. If you were to do a borrowing for this money, it's got to be approved by the local government commission. The other thing so just keep that in mind as you're thinking about how you pay for things and debt service and those sorts of things. The other thing that we would have to keep in mind is if you did a borrowing, we would also have to coordinate that. If you did something less than the full appropriation that's been requested, that would have to be coordinated with USDA. So I just want you to keep that in mind as you're thinking through what those next steps might look like.
Well, and I think in just as a general, it sounds like a long time away, but we're working on budget now. I mean, literally, departments are putting their budgets together. So this is a process that has already begun, and I think it's a good time to factor in, what the options would be if the board is inclined to do that. That's just my suggestion, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions on that? I did have one on the financing. So the financing, would it be when we do general fund, we could do private financing? Could we include it in a bond the next time we did one? What are our options as far as, because this is not a traditional public school, what are our options?
I think we would examine all the options. As you know, we have a lot of things going on right now and future sales of different monies for some school construction that's already been approved by the voters. So we could go private, just a private standalone. We could lump it in with something else. We've got options on there. We probably would recommend borrowing the money.
Okay. So there's not any fewer or any more options, just the same options as we
Yes, sir.
have?
Yes, sir.
But would have to be blessed by the LGC.
Yes, sir. That is
It
the
is,
key
yeah,
right there. Just like with Clayton High School, we've got to talk with them about that project
Okay.
as well. Get that.
Right.
So we would talk with them about this project. We may lump it in with something else, or we may do standalone. We'll try to do it the most efficient way.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, some of this is going to be derived by if you allocate funds, what their time frame is, whether, and how we do this, because there's going to be a process that goes along with this. So whether we do private placement, we put it on a referendum, or whatever it is, it's going to be dictated by what Neuse Charter needs to do and what their time frame is. When we talk about putting it in a budget, we're budgeting debt service if we're going to do borrowings. So.
Okay. Yeah, I think that they have shown that they're very persistent and patient. But I think at some point the patience part runs out, the persistence part doesn't.
And
But I think that we can, it sounds like, the words people, but putting this as part of our budget process and doing the typical analysis that we're doing for the schools, for any project, capital project that comes on, that we'll do that in the same method.
And Mr. Lauder, if I can clarify just one thing. I believe that this cannot be a general obligation bond. It can be a limited obligation bond, that sort of thing. But the statute only allows for direct appropriation. So I just wanted to clarify that.
So help me out a little bit. So that means where we put stuff for
Referendum.
traditional, okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
referendum.
Okay, so that option is not there to put it on a referendum.
Well, and frankly, I would imagine that Neuse Charter would not want to wait for a referendum.
Quite sure
Because
of that.
that's, the soonest you could do that's 26.
Yeah, when I said patience and saw the look that I got, I knew that was not really an option, but, okay. All right, but it does sound like, Commissioner Stovall, do you have something to add?
I'd like to say I support the suggestion by Vice Chair Harris as well as Commissioner Godwin that we need to get through the budget process before we make any decision on this. Because as he said, we've got a lot of things we've got to consider in terms of needing funding. One of the things that sticks in my mind is I campaigned on I wanted to get kids out of modular into permanent construction because I think it's a better learning environment, it's safer, et cetera. It's no difference between kids in the public school versus Neuse Charter. I do believe that there's a difference. Ms. Slusser may tell me I'm wrong, but she says we are obligated, shall under statute to fund public schools, may for charter schools. And quite frankly, we got modular classrooms that are older than the ones you got. I can say that for a fact because my son went to Johnston County Public School. He's 28 years old now, and the same modular he's in are still sitting on that cool school campus. I have a belief that we need to address the modulars we have in our system first, because that is a shell fund issue versus a May fund issue. But I'm not opposed to putting Neuse Charter in the pipeline for consideration when the resources are available.
So we're all in agreement, we can add it to our budget discussion, it sounds like.
Sounds like that to me. I don't know that we need to vote. I think just consensus to do that, and we will do that, and we can look at, like you said, different levels. And I will say the 24 classrooms, I think, and the price actually compares to what we just saw at Cleveland with, I think it was 10 million or 11 million for Cleveland.
11 million.
For 24, and this, 9.5 to 10 is pretty much.
12 million.
What?
12 million for Cleveland.
I think it was less. They came in less than
Okay.
that, yeah. So, but I think that the numbers are similar. So I think, again, we'll take a look at this in our budget process and to see where it comes out. And again, I expect your persistence will be right here through that whole process. So,
You are right.
yeah, man, thank you for
You are
coming
correct.
and
Yep.
unexpectedly stepping up and answering questions
It's all right. I
for us
appreciate
tonight.
the conversation, the discussion, entertaining this. Our kids are important.
They
I
are.
look forward to what comes next.
Yeah, and I think when we have, so I got my 6 priorities, I probably don't have them all memorized, but when we talk about educational funding, it doesn't say educational funding, traditional public schools, it doesn't say educational funding, community college, it just says educational funding.
That's right.
Right. So,
Yep. Yep.
all right.
Appreciate
Well,
it.
thank you all for coming and taking time out of your evenings, and Rachel, for you getting called out by your mom. That was fun. I can tell in your eyes, that was a fun part of the evening, so. But thank you all for coming and spending part of your evening with us.
Of course.
And for those in the hallway.
Yeah, the ones in the
Thanks for
hallway
moving us
too.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thank
All
you.
right,
you.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, we're on educate, we'll let the room clear out. While we let some come in, we'll continue on,
Do you have more public comment?
nope, that was it.
They didn't all show up.
We have moved on.
Yep, and so we have the partnership, I gotta, man, these notes are all messed up.
The proclamation.
Yes, we have a proclamation for partnership for children, Family Support Awareness Month, and our newly appointed board member representing Partnership for Children is Commissioner Rose. There we have, I was gonna say, there we got some people coming in, there we go. So who is gonna step up and address the board? And we,
Allison is going to address the board.
All right.
Allison is our.
Oh, y'all have a crowd too, see?
Little crowd. We'll be leaving as soon as we're finished.
Yes.
So when you get through, Commissioner Rose will read the proclamation unless one of the folks you brought with you want to read it for us, we'll let him do that, so.
Thank you, Mr.
All right.
Rose. Appreciate that. Everybody's excellent. Well, good evening, Chairman
Good evening.
Lautner, Vice Chairman Harris, board members and guests. My name is Allison Boyd. I'm the Vice Chair of the Board of the Partnership for Children. I'm joined here today with Letty Urbina, with Karen Mills, and with Kelly Blanchard, our supporters and our awesome team down on Pollock Street. We are here to present the board with a proclamation establishing February as Parent Support Awareness Month. Every day, year-round, our team makes a positive impact in our county by supporting the youngest children, their parents, caregivers, and teachers. They work tirelessly to bring about the vision of the Partnership for Children, which is bright futures for the youngest residents of Johnston County. I stand here today as just one example of the support of the Partnership for Children. 10 years ago, I came to the partnership looking for support for parenting for our family. And since then, I've grown in my leadership, both here locally and statewide. And I brought one of our partnership babies with me, my son. He's now almost 11. There are many more family leaders across the county that have been supported by the Partnership for Children. And they are here to continue to bring awareness to the vital importance of strong and secure families in the first 2,000 days of a child's life as a firm foundation for their future success. So thank you, board members, in joining us in this great work by proclaiming February as Family Support Awareness Month. So if Mr. Rose, if you would join me,
Can-
I appreciate that.
Okay. All right. Whereas a child's first 5 years of life are critical or a critical period for brain development, which significantly impacts lifelong success, and a consistent relationship with a nurturing adult is a key factor in a child's development. And whereas many parents and caregivers begin the challenging lifelong responsibility of raising a child feeling unprepared, and children have a stronger, healthier start when their parents and caregivers have the support and skills needed to raise them. And whereas family support programs help parents and caregivers meet the unique needs of their children, promote healthy development, strengthen family relationships, reduce the risk of abuse and neglect, and promote equity. And whereas the Partnership for Children of Johnston County serves as a vital community resource offering family support services that empower children, parents, and caregivers, including providing parent education programs, addressing concrete needs, and fostering social connections. And whereas supporting high-quality early childhood organizations like the Partnership for Children of Johnston County can lead to significant long-term benefits for parents and caregivers that strengthen our community, including increased educational attainment, higher earnings, reduced crime, and better health outcomes. Now, therefore, the Johnston County Board of Commissioners hereby proclaims February 2025 as Family Support Awareness Month in Johnston County and commends this observance to all of our citizens. So, we need a motion?
Yeah, I think if you want to add on, it'd be a good time to add on to that.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we accept this
second.
proclamation.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor of adoption of the proclamation, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your support.
Thank you for all y'all do.
You did a good job.
Yeah.
Did we want
Yeah,
to
we can get a picture. Yeah, I was gonna say, no, we need, yeah. We need the, yeah. Might as well get everybody up here, yeah. All right, okay. Just remember all that, sit down. Hold on one second, I'll move this microphone for you. You sure you don't want to get in the picture? Yeah.
Hey, let's do one more for the camera. We got 1, 2, 3.
All right, thank y'all.
If it's okay, I'm just gonna leave these with you.
Okay, leave them with the deputy clerk.
Thank you.
You.
Thank you,
Thank
too.
you.
Y'all comfortable or y'all want?
All right, so the next item on the agenda is Johnston Community College and a request for funding for the Johnston County Commissioners Promise Program. And we have Dr. Lindquist here, the president of JCC, to make that request. Actually, we have a couple items here to get you on a roll, so.
We do.
All right.
Thank you very much. You see, I brought my hat. I've got it tipped upwards.
I thought you were getting a bigger hat.
I'm working on it. It's not in the budget this year, but we'll see what we can do. Yeah, the first request, and we've got some information to share with you, is that honestly, the Commissioner's Promise program has been successful beyond our expectations. So before I got here, when the program started, we started with a strong cohort of 90 students, and we're up 456% this fall. And these even into the spring, the next slide will show that we're still up over 400% even in the spring. And usually colleges have a little downtick in spring semesters. That doesn't really seem to be happening at Johnston Community College anymore. We seem to be kind of maintaining our enrollments. So as I mentioned to you at last time I was here earlier in the fall, that we're just going to need some more money so that we can fully fund the Promise this year. And so what we're requesting is $372,000, which we believe will close out the year. Less than we originally thought, but still pretty outstanding considering the return on this investment is just, my goodness, we have so many students, and they're just doing really well. So that's how well this program is going so far. I hope you don't ask me how many students are going to be there next fall, because honestly, we're just not quite sure yet. I'm hoping that we will continue to see strong increases. In fact, I'm confident we will. I wouldn't be disappointed if they weren't 15% every year, though. If something a little smaller would be a little easier for us to manage as a college. But our overall enrollment has not only never been higher, but our enrollment growth over the last 2 years as a percentage is the top of the state. Nobody else is even close to us.
All right, any
I have a question,
questions?
Mr.
Yes,
Chairman.
sir.
Vern, what kind of testing, economic testing takes place for the Promise?
The Promise is a last dollar scholarship, and so what that means is that every student who gets that money is required to fill out a FAFSA. So they have to do all of their financial aid stuff. So once all of that financial aid is dispersed, the Promise scholarship makes up the difference.
Is there any income level that disqualifies a student?
There is not.
Should there be?
I don't think so, because this frankly, the program for the number of students that it's serving is really not very expensive. And also, it's the same model that many other counties, especially counties that are growing strongly, are following. So I think you really do want to encourage local students to go to college locally. The more students that do that, the more students that will end up staying in the county and end up working in the county.
It just seems to me that if somebody was making way more than the average family income, maybe the money ought to be reserved for those who are not. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think what you're saying, there's no FAFSA money, so the whole tuition is paid for out of our money. Yeah.
I mean,
It should be a real financial need.
would it encourage someone not to go if they got to pay they got to pay a fee somewhere? I don't want to throw a wrench in machinery, but I've had young people meet me in the grocery store where they're working part-time and say, I really appreciate that program. But if their parents are independently wealthy, I don't know why they should be going to school on the taxpayer's dime.
I think that's probably a fair.
Have I quit preaching and going to meddling?
No, I think that's a fair concern as we're seeing the numbers grow, and we went from, I don't remember if it was $250,000 to start with to 500, and now to 800. So at some point we've got to figure out what that is. So I think that as this evolves,
I think it's a good program. We ought to keep it, but maybe we ought to put some limitations to it to manage it.
I think we can consider that.
Well, I was about to say, we can absolutely further discuss this when we get down the path. I guess I just, I wouldn't make it exclusive to that. As someone who just finished paying for a child going through college, it would have been nice to have some type of financial support, which unfortunately she didn't qualify for any of it. Granted, she went out of state. But I do see the value of someone like that choosing maybe JCC over another college because they have the Commissioner's Promise and choosing to stay in Johnston County instead of going away to college. So I hear you and definitely would agree to putting some limitations. I just wouldn't do 100% of our Commissioner's Promise based on that limitation, because I do feel like there's some great kids who come through this program that have every intention of staying in Johnston County, and it shouldn't be a detriment to them just because their parents can't pay for college.
Yeah, I would again go back to as this evolves, because this the third year of this is as it evolves, and many things evolve, they get tweaked, and so I think that's probably a worthwhile thing. This we just look at the process, but I do agree. Same as you, I hear people all the time. The first year is like people because I didn't know there was what the Commissioner's Promise was. I didn't know it was available. Now people recognize it, and it does bring value. And we've had young adults here saying I wasn't going to community college, I wasn't going anywhere. Now I'm going to community college, or I was going somewhere else in another county, and now I'm staying in Johnston County. And I know the statistics you brought before, clearly state that if they finish school, wherever they finish school is where they're most likely to live and to find employment. So again, as we're looking to keep people from being like me and driving west most every day, if we can, the more we can keep in Johnston County, I think that helps, particularly a lot of the transportation issues. But we had the discussion, as we were discussing earlier today, it also provides opportunity for families to spend more time with families other than sitting in the car on asphalt heading back to Johnston County. So I think there's a lot of intangible benefits to the program and to keeping people in Johnston County. So.
And then is the, sorry, I didn't.
Well, I was just going to say, I think we've got this request to finish out, but it, again, as has been mentioned, it is budget time. So again, taking a look at those numbers and getting those to us early so we can make sure that they can fit in our budget.
Yes, certainly, we'll be happy to, I mean, I don't have that with me tonight, but we can
Yeah.
certainly look at, as much as we can, what kind of income levels we're talking about. I'm fairly certain that I can say that there are very few of our students whose parents are independently wealthy. They may not be as needy, but even the students who are coming for 2 years and then transferring somewhere else, though their parents could easily afford Johnston County Community College's tuition, they're looking at the whole picture.
Yeah.
And so when they think about what they save by spending 2 years with us before they go to spend the 4 years somewhere else, that's a massive gift to the taxpayers of Johnston County. That is, you are giving them back some of their tax dollars in a way that is especially meaningful at a time that is especially difficult for families.
Is the 411, is that how many students then that are part of the Commissioner's Promise for fall of 20?
No, that's the percent of
The
increase.
percent increase, okay.
I thought the percentage was 456.
That was for the fall. The next one's for the spring.
411, is that not the number?
Oh, I'm sorry, it is
Yeah,
total,
that's
Woody,
what-
sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry. Yep, it's, even with my glasses on, it's too small a print for me.
When they fill out the financial aid forms, are local scholarships included in that if they got like a memorial scholarship at their high school?
I don't know, I don't believe they are.
Okay. All right. I was just curious about that, because some of them, I know a lot of local scholarships are given out at high schools during graduation times, and I was just
Every
curious.
year North Johnston gives one to a student at JCC.
Mhm.
Yep.
I just think they can also,
Go ahead, no, you go.
but I think they could also save that scholarship. So like if they do transfer, then they can save that scholarship, I think, to the four-year university.
Gotcha.
I just think back to your point, I wonder how many students, start at JCC under the Commissioner's Promise thinking that they're going to go off to a four-year, because that sounds beautiful when you're graduating college, high school and everybody else is going, but then once you're here for 2 years and you realize, or I could stay around here and just go ahead and go to work and stay close to home. I wonder, because of this, how many students we are keeping from just going to another college out of Johnston County.
We really don't know that, and it's because the program is just too new. So we don't have people that were, this year will be the first year we're graduating any of the students, and it's going to be that smaller number. And remember, even though Johnston County Community College has 2-year programs, it's not really a 2-year school. Most of our students are part-time students, and they're working, they have families, so they're spending significantly more than 2 years to get the first 2 years of that degree out. So it will be a little while before we have good data to answer those kind of questions.
Are you going to be able to have, I guess, as it's wrapping up, to have like exit data? So then that way, like as, to follow back up, this student go to transfer, are they now like in another program at the college, or are they living here and working? Are you going to be able to follow up with the students?
Yes, we will.
To see that data, kind of like what Commissioner Godwin's saying, is like what if they're staying here in the county?
Right. That data is not going to be good right away. It's going
Right.
to take us
It's gonna
probably a
take a
couple of
while,
years.
yeah.
But yes, we're actively gathering that data.
So yeah, I was going to say, could you, and I know this is not what you're here for, but, and I don't even know the right words, but I know we're using some software that I think we're leading the state in, and people are looking to us, but that does exactly what you're talking about. It's a lot of detail into where students go and exactly what you're talking about when they leave, where do they go, so we can see that. But I don't even know what that system is, but can you take a minute to kind of expand on that?
Sure. We've actually got two pretty interesting and technically advanced systems that we're using right now. One of them is a CRM that allows us to even use
CRM stands for?
Customer Resource Management Tool.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad I looked that up today. It allows us to, from the first time a student comes to our website or makes a phone call or talks to anybody, the system logs that, and then it allows us to follow up with that student, give them the information, exactly the information they need, and for the people who follow up to have all of the past conversations in place too, so they can really give students the customer service that they expect. These days, people expect, after you've talked to somebody once, that you remember it forever. Amazon knows exactly what I want before I even go to click on anything, and we're striving for that kind of level of customer service. All of that data feeds into a very large data warehouse that we're building. That allows us to pull information back to see which of our programs are functioning as designed and which need some extra help. So because we have those two systems, one of the things we do hope to be able to do is to say, gosh, if a student comes here under the Commissioner's Promise from this particular high school, they have X percentage of a chance that they're going to be transferring to this college or that college, or going into this or that kind of program, and perhaps returning back to the county when they're done.
That was my question. Yeah, that's cool. Good morning.
All right, any other questions before we take action on this item? All right, what's the pleasure of the board?
Chairman, go ahead. Go right ahead, man.
Chairman, I make a motion to approve the funding in the amount of $372,000 for the Commissioner's Promise.
Second.
Thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion carries. All right. Dr. Lindquist, I believe you have the next item, which is the Career and College Promise Program funding request.
Thank you. We've been informed that the JCPS is not going to be able to, as of the next fiscal year, to pay for the books and fees for the approximately 1,200 students that are in the Career and College Promise program. We have a number of early college programs with the JCPS. That gives students who are in high school the ability to earn college credits while they're in high school, generally at no cost to their families. And that really gives them a leg up whether they stay here at JCC or go on. So because they're not able to pay for the books and fees, that would mean that the largest of the programs that we have with the public schools would be open only to students whose parents can afford the books and fees. We keep the fees as low as we can. Most of the cost of this program is books. Even there, though, we are very aggressive. We have a bookstore vendor that delivers the books electronically to our learning management system so that students who sign up for a class have the books on the first day. And because we do that for all of our courses, we get these books at a very low price. So there are other colleges in the area now copying us. I heard a couple of weeks ago that Wake Tech has even decided they're going to do this too. We're getting a better price for our books than they are. So we really are doing our best to keep these costs as low as we can. Nevertheless, a very high percentage, I don't know exactly how many, but I expect a very high percentage of the students in the largest of these programs would only be able to participate if their parents or their households could spare the money. So we're hoping that we can get a commitment, not the money today, but a commitment from the commissioners to fund our estimate of what the books and fees would be for this group of students so that we can advertise that they can still continue as they have in the past to take part in this program regardless of their family's ability to pay. We expect it would be about $550,000 per year for all of these students. And that is what we're requesting. It's not the money for now, but it's knowing that I can tell the students that this is something that the commissioners will be able to take care of for them because they're going to start signing up for these classes in a couple of weeks.
I'll say to Commissioner Godwin's point earlier on Neuse Charter, if any number of these 1,200 students were not able to go here, they would be back in.
Well, there are
Johnson
high school
County.
students, right? There's high school students. But now the shift of the cost is not under the high school,
That
and not the
that-
public school.
That is correct,
It
yeah. So it's
sounds
not.
like a
it's-
ripoff, doesn't it?
Well, it sounds like it was traditionally had gone to, again, the public schools, which, and then was a pass-through or pass-over to the community college, and now they're electing to not have the pass-through. And
Yeah.
it seems like there's some, I won't say savings, but there's not a lot of, I think originally they were looking at more of a difference if it was to go to JCC to be the ones who collected the funds, but now the 550, is that what the number was this year?
Yeah, pretty much that's what it was this year.
I know y'all gonna think I'm an ogre, but you said some of these students won't be able to afford those books, but some can. This is the total cost of the program, so why isn't there a test for that? I mean, why would the taxpayers' money going to be paid for this if they can afford it?
Well, my question is, if your kid's going to high school, he doesn't pay for any books. These kids are in high school, they're high school age, right?
That's right.
And now the public school, which we fund, are not going to give them the money that
Yeah.
we're giving them.
That's why I say it's a ripoff
And
somewhere.
then we're going to have to give them to it now, this way.
Yeah.
So I don't understand that.
Well, I think it's a shift. I think that historically, Dr. Linquist, correct me now if I'm wrong, that Johnston County Public Schools covered this cost in their budget. And then there was some increase coming up in this next, is that correct? There's some increase in funds, and I think the public school system decided to really let the college come and deal with it rather than, somebody was going to have to come ask for money. Is that
Yeah,
right?
it's close. We, last year, we did have to increase our fees. We had to increase our fees in 10 years. As I said, most of this money is actually books, not fees, but we did have to increase the fees. And we recognized that that was going to be a strain on the school budget. So this year, we said, we will eat that ourselves. That is, we will pay the difference. And we did this year. Even though Johnston County Public Schools did add more students to the program, we still kept the cost at the same level. So the fees were going to increase somewhat this year, but the book prices are remaining static.
I don't want to get in the weeds, but I'm assuming you guys have already looked at electronic options. I just kind of find it hard to believe, especially with college level classes, that books are not getting obsolete almost as fast as they're being printed.
All of our
They're all
books,
electronic.
all of our
They're
books
all
are
electronic and it's still $458 a person.
Well, remember though, this is for
It's that code.
This is for a number of
code.
different classes for a
Okay, I know you
lot.
said electronic in the beginning, but I thought it was just for the beginning one, so they're still all electronic and it's now I feel
Yeah,
like.
there are some scattered exceptions to that, but almost, I don't know the exact percentage, almost all of the books are electronic these days.
Yeah.
That's
Okay,
really,
so
that's
I
really,
am that old. I was just making sure that,
Yeah, so I think,
Yeah.
well, to Commissioner Godwin's point is, we had the money here, and now it's going to here. There don't need to be the same amount of money going to this hand. It's moved to this hand, so yeah, we need to just make conscious that
We can do that.
we're not putting money in both
We
hands.
just reduce about 550.
Yeah, I think that, so I think that's what we need to probably, examine, because to me, it was a public schools, it's their responsibility. Y'all have negotiated something different, but we don't need to be funding both handfuls of money. So, okay, so I think, I don't have a problem, but we'll figure out on the other side, but I think we need to continue that program. Again, because if those students weren't there, they would be in a public school.
So when you
You are
submit-
correct.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So when you submit your budget request for the next year, it's going to include this
Yes, sir, it
amount
will.
in there. And tonight, you just need a sort of a nod to say that we're going to.
We're gonna pay you back if you
I need it because otherwise I'm going to have 1,200 angry households calling me wanting to know why. Yeah.
Was there an increased cost from the public school side for those kids going to JCC that they're unable to fund the books now? Or was that, why was that decision made?
I would be uncomfortable giving the reasons why they decided to make this decision.
Okay.
It's hard for directions. We're good with the money going. We just need to direct staff to figure out on the back end how we make that adjustment.
Still say there ought to be a test.
If you're interested, I do have two slides also
Proctor.
just to show what the economic impact of this program has been for the last year. We've got, as I said, about 1,200 students in the program. They completed a total of 10,400 transferable credits. So what that really means is when those credits go somewhere else, the households supporting those students will save this year about $2.8 million. So this is a tremendous return on investment that the commissioners are able to give to the taxpayers of the county. This has been a big year, but over the last 10 years, excluding the East Early College and the CTLA programs, which are housed on our campus, just the CCP students have earned enough university tuition at JCC to have saved nearly $20 million over the last 10 years. So this is really a very effective way for the county to give a leg up to the young people of the county and also to their families.
I noticed you had listed in this handout that it was based on the average tuition at NC State for one credit.
I am not suggesting that's
No,
where
no,
they should go.
No.
I am agnostic.
Now, let me finish. That was for one credit hour. When I was a student at NC State, that would have more than paid for the entire semester tuition.
I thought you were going to say you took a bushel of corn or
No.
something there and
Chicken. Chicken.
My first semester at the University of Michigan, my tuition bill was $784. And at the time, it was the most expensive public college in the nation. So
I'm not down on this program, Dr. Lindquist. My grandson graduated first class undergraduate in 3 years, now he's a dentist. His little sister went through this program at JCC. She got her master's before he got his
Wow.
college. Yep.
Wow.
She works smarter, not harder.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. So I think we know where we're headed with this. I think you have a commitment that we'll take care of it. Staff is going to look into the backside for us. I would ask, I think there's an item that will be discussed in board comments, so don't go very far. We may need to ask you some more questions, so.
I'm happy to stay here
Go
to
sit
answer any of your
comfortably.
questions. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. All right, next up, Chad McLam, our finance director, has a resolution for financing a portion of Advanced Manufacturing Training Center in Four Oaks and a classroom addition at Cleveland High School, which I believe we've talked about a couple times tonight, so. McLam?
Yes, as you said, staff requests the board to adopt a resolution authorizing staff with filing an application with the local government commission for the Advanced Manufacturing Training Center in Four Oaks and the classroom addition at Cleveland High School for an amount up to $30 million. This resolution is to comply with North Carolina general statutes, and we'd like the public hearing to be at the March 3rd, 10 a.m. meeting.
We've discussed this at length. Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt the resolution.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor of adopting the resolution, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Motion carries.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. So next, we will move on to a request to purchase equipment from our Parks, Greenways, and Open Space Director, Adrian O'Neill. I think that probably falls under we're going to put under land use on there, because it's Parks and Greenways. How about that?
Okay. Thank you for having me tonight. We've gotten an opportunity to purchase two one-year-old tractors. One of them's 23 horsepower with a front-end loader and a backhoe, and one of them's a 47 horsepower with a front-end loader with four-way bucket and a rotary cutter. Both of them have less than 50 hours on them, and the equipment has been offered by the estate of Roger Barber. The staff has discussed the ability to share the equipment with Building and Grounds and would be able to use them for the several units that are upcoming in the future, and the property that we already have at Cleveland to maintain it. And the smaller tractor will be beneficial for trail maintenance and repair for spot projects. The equipment would cost, if new, $81,968 from the dealer, and it's being offered at by the estate at the price of $53,340, which is what it was, what the dealer buyback value would have been. Ready to answer any questions?
I wonder if we could use it for the potholes in the convenience center sites.
I don't know, we got the man who can answer that question over there coming up here.
I think they might have some larger equipment that they can use for that.
It's a convenience site, so yeah.
I do have some experience with some of this stuff, and I think this is a good deal. And I know it's not real estate, it's rolling stock, but it's capital swaps. So I move that we approve the purchase.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
I have a question.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Neal, will this equipment be kept on site or moved to another location, or what are the plans there?
Well, it can be moved from location to location. We've got, we've got ability to store it right now for probably the next couple of months at the site it's at. Under lock and key, it won't be available. And then we're looking at some other sites that we'd be able to store it.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Does Building Grounds have a trailer to move it?
That I'm not sure. We will probably ask for that in the budget.
Okay. Yeah. Part of the package.
Just got more expensive, didn't it?
Yeah.
It's still a good deal. It's good Kubota tractors.
All right. Any other discussion? All right. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion carries.
As usual, I appreciate your support.
All right, thank
Thank you,
you.
Andrew.
All right, next up, we have Ms. Chandra Farmer here to discuss an update on our new stormwater regulations, which I think probably, I'd say land use and infrastructure kind of, so let's go with that.
Okay,
All right?
that works. It's not water and sewer for me tonight. As the board may be aware, we have proposed some revisions to the county's stormwater ordinance for new development. And we've been working on these revisions for quite some time. Several different factors have driven these revisions. But we had a stakeholders meeting in January, invited our engineers, developers, the community to attend and offer input. And we are currently working on the draft ordinance and where to go with those. We're still taking public input from our interested parties to be able to draft these revisions, but we wanted to present a summary of what we're proposing to the board tonight. We will try to keep it brief. I know you are tired of hearing from me all the time, so I brought help tonight. I have with me tonight Jessica Batten, our Stormwater and Development Manager, and also Beth Umstead. She is a consultant that has worked with our environmental programs over the last several years for our stormwater, sedimentation, erosion control, and riparian buffer program. And Beth is going to go through the presentation with you, and feel free to ask any questions to us along the way or at the end.
Okay. Thank you.
Bless you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hopefully this will stay out of the weeds. I tend to get in the weeds, so I'm going to try not to. But I am Beth Umstead, and I'm happy to be in front of y'all to go through some of these revisions. So as Chandra said, we've been working on this for a while. Early 2020, the Neuse rules were revised. As you know, we're a Neuse community. We fall under the Neuse rule program for stormwater and also the riparian buffers. And some revisions, significant revisions were made in the rule. And staff looked at that, made a recommendation on how to move forward to meet those rules and also kind of tie up some loose ends. And the changes, I'm going to go through any of the language that is in the red coloring, that comes from the state rule, from the Neuse rules. Anything in the green coloring comes from U.S. Fish and Wildlife. Anything in the black is from local recommendations, just to kind of keep it straight, because there are a lot of pieces, parts we're trying to pull together. So with the Neuse rules, there were changes. The Neuse rule itself is focused on water quality, not water quantity. So it's silent on water quantity. Okay, so water quality is impervious area, how much runoff, the quality of runoff. And then we talk about quantity when it comes to flooding, small system flooding and larger system flooding. So we pulled together some recommendations on the built upon area. You'll see BUA, that is built upon area or the impervious surfaces. And changes to design, a lot of that was based upon the Neuse rule revisions. We held the first stormwater stakeholder meeting on our recommendations moving forward in March of 2020. And then we started our submittals to the state for approval. We have a final submittal into the state Division of Water Resources, and we haven't gotten that approved yet. It's kind of stalled there.
What is EMC?
EMC is the Environmental Management Commission. It is the approving board at the state level.
Okay.
So our changes had to go to the staff with DWR, and then they go to the Environmental Management Committee. Okay, and it hadn't made it to our program revisions after working with the DWR staff have not made it fully to the EMC yet.
Could you tell me again what BUA is?
Built upon area.
Okay.
It's the new terminology for impervious surfaces. They like to throw out some interesting definitions, so we try to keep up. And during this time, we're still getting a lot of, at the staff level, we're getting a lot of requests to increase the BUA for homeowners. And we're trying to keep up with that, where a homeowner wants to add additional impervious surfaces, built upon area, pool, a patio, a deck. Deck is not impervious. But adding things on. And so we are still dealing with some kind of historic properties that are coming through at a very low, that were approved at a very low BUA to begin with. And so when homeowners are wanting to add additional BUA, they're having to come to staff to get approval for that through some kind of unique designs. And just a little bit about those low BUAs. When we first developed the program back in '97, the idea was keep low-density development for residential. That seemed to be the way to go. They're small houses on large lots. And so it's low density, and so we kept it at 12 to 15% of impervious area on those lots. And so we went forward with that. And what happened was engineers learned how to reverse engineer it. So this is how much road surface I have. Here's how many lots. I've got to divide that and figure out how much BUA goes to each lot to keep it under that 12 or 15%. And what we're finding, what we have found is that's too small. That built upon area is too small for the product that people want to have these days. And so that's causing a bit of an issue at the staff level for the amount of requests that we're getting. So back to my slide. In 2024, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, that agreement, the memorandum of agreement between DOT, the county, and U.S. Fish and Wildlife was reopened and revised. And those revisions focused on the built upon area limits that were in the previous agreement. We'll talk through those in just a minute. Focused on riparian buffers on new streams, or the potential for riparian buffers on new streams, attenuation, and what we really wanted to do was eliminate the land dedication program. The land dedication program as it exists right now is a payment fund, and it doesn't quite do what it was anticipated to do. And so we've eliminated that land. We are hoping to eliminate the land dedication program, and we did through the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Agreement. They agreed that if we want to get rid of this program, it's not working the way that we anticipated it to work, and we believe these additional criteria are going to be more protective of our streams than land dedication was to begin with.
So let's explain the land dedication program a little.
So the land dedication program, the way the county program is right now, you can have so much built upon area in single-family residential or in non-single-family residential developments. If you exceed that cap, then you can pay into the land dedication program, or you can dedicate land. That allows you to exceed up to a limit. I think it's 80% for single-family residential, and up to 30 or 40% in single-family residential. So the idea...
Land in the same development or land?
No, in the same watershed.
Okay.
Yes, it doesn't, it is not supposed to be on the same property as the development is.
Sound like wetland mitigation.
Kind of. Yeah, it is similar to that, very similar. But it hadn't really worked the way we anticipated it would, and it ends up being just one more cost that the developer, has before being able to build. So the current Fish and Wildlife Agreement, which I think you all have looked at and approved previously, has that removed, the land dedication program, along with the lower built-upon area restrictions that were in the original. We removed the original lower built-upon area restrictions and have a higher cap for that as well. So I'm going to give you a summary of the changes. If it doesn't make sense, stop me and ask questions. One of the biggest changes we are recommending is for new residential developments to have a more realistic built-upon area minimum. It can go greater than this, but no less than 6,000 square feet per lot of built-upon area. And this would be for non-sewered residential developments. And so that should, based upon a desktop analysis that we've done, that should provide enough for the initial build, plus some left over for the homeowner in the end.
For reference, what we have right now is right around 4,000, correct?
We don't have a requirement right now.
Okay.
Yeah. And so some of the BUAs we're seeing are as low as 2,500.
I guess it's just what I'm seeing as an average on flats that come across is like 3,700 to 4,000, so that makes sense.
Yeah, so this gives us some slush there as well.
But what is happening to the owners, the people that buy the go to do their patio or pool or whatever, and
Have to pull a permit, and they've
and
got
they
to go
find out they
through.
don't have
enough to do what they want, or maybe they're already over. Maybe the original build was over. And so it puts the homeowners in a very difficult position, because it's the homeowner that's dealing with it. It's not the developer, it's not the builder, it is now the homeowner that's dealing with it.
When the dust settles, the BUA 6,000, that includes driveways, rooftops, patios, everything.
Plus, yeah, enough for everything else.
Does
Well,
this requirement in any way affect minimum lot size?
I don't think so. I don't think it should.
We've not proposed anything related to minimum.
Yeah. Now, on a sewered lot, if you require 6,000 square feet of BUA, you're going to be covering that entire lot potentially. So I think that would have to be on a case-by-case basis. But for non-sewered where you have septic, a minimum of 6,000 square feet. Okay?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Maybe I'm thinking about it different. Built upon area is like Commissioner Galvin said, that's your house, your driveway, outbuild and everything. So is it a minimum built upon area or a maximum built upon area?
Minimum.
Minimum.
If you think about it from the top down, so your house square footage
Yeah.
doesn't really calculate into that. It's the bird's eye view of that. So
Okay.
a minimum of 6,000 square feet. The houses that are being built now have 2- and 3-car garages. A lot of times they have a long driveway. Everybody wants to put in a pool now as well. So that includes all of those components. And we, like I said, we did a desktop analysis to kind of get an idea of what's out there, and what are we seeing come through. And 6,000 square feet seems to be enough, without being too much.
Would that not be driven by the lot size? The lot's 2 acres. And you got a minimum.
A minimum, it could be more than that. You could put 10,000 square feet of BUA on that. But no, it's not driven by the lot size right now. That's not what
I
we're
think we're
proposing.
thinking about this thing back. What if you put 3,000?
3,000 square feet?
No, I mean, in building, you built small house, small driveway, 3,000 square feet.
I'm not sure that's what is being built right now in the county, though.
I'm just confused like Mr. Rose is about minimum.
It seems like if you have a 15,000 square foot, by this definition, I could build a 15,000 square foot house on it, because it says a minimum of 6,000.
You can build a 15,000 square foot house, and the developer would design the stormwater.
Yeah, so would you come up so that
Yes.
everybody can hear you?
Yes.
Yeah.
So 6,000 is the maximum, is the minimum we're saying it should be designed for. The developer knows the product that they're going to want in this development, in this subdivision. They can design it for more if they want to. The stormwater facilities that they'll design should be designed to accommodate whatever they're proposing in here. But the problem we've been having is, we've had developers who said, 3,000 will be enough, we're just going to leave it at that, record it on this plat and be done with it.
Okay.
But it's not enough enough for future homeowners to be able to utilize their property, to the full extent that they want to.
Everything
Is there-
So we're
they can
coming
do
at this from the back to the front, unfortunately. So what they're going to get at is they're making changes in what the developers can do with regards to stormwater, so that the developers are going to quit putting the bare bones minimum on these lots, because what it's doing is creating a headache for them in the future once the homeowner gets in.
Yeah.
Is there any disclosure requirement to the buyer that you have X amount of buildable area left after the initial footprint has been
Well, the
occupied?
limit is recorded on the final plat.
It has not been just stepping in from wearing a real estate hat. I would say in the last 7 years is when this has really became very prevalent, either because it wasn't being enforced or it wasn't being paid attention to. But it's definitely become more prevalent and something that we're seeing. I've got one under contract right now where the builder just had to tear out the entire driveway and sidewalk and put permeable concrete in because he went over and did not realize. And it was an old subdivision that it wasn't as clear as it is. So things have come a long way in planning and zoning and making it apparent, because so many issues have come, but it's definitely not something, for whatever reason, that was really carefully enforced, I guess, up until about 7 to 10 years ago.
Let me see if I can summarize. The intent here is that the stormwater accommodation has to be designed for at least 6,000 square foot, regardless of what you build on it, as long as it stays. If you go beyond that, you have to design for the higher amount.
Right.
But you can build under 6,000 square foot total, and you've got reserve there for anything you want to add later up to that amount.
Okay.
Yeah. That's what I was saying. They started kind of like with the end in mind, if that makes sense, but they hadn't gotten to the part that's going to make the difference as to what this is going to mean.
That's why I was asking about disclosing it to the buyer, so it's clear that they have an understanding that
Every buyer should get a survey, and that's where they will see exactly how much impervious they have.
But the current stormwater rules for a residential development, if they build under 12% in the environmentally sensitive area or under 15% in other parts of our jurisdiction, then they're not required to attenuate. They don't have to do attenuation. So what we've been seeing is they're trying to stay under that so they don't have to build that attenuation, and they don't have to do land dedication if they stay under that. So this incentive, taking away the land dedication payment so they don't have to do that by exceeding it, and requiring the 6,000 will ensure those future homeowners have sufficient impervious area. Because what they're doing by reverse engineering it, it's just not leaving enough for future use of those lots.
Yeah, so they can't add on a nice screened-in porch or having a pool or wanting to do other things to add value to their property, or even for recreation to enjoy with their property. They just can't do it because there's not the impervious there.
Yeah. And so then you get that, and then what didn't need attenuation needs, and you just got more runoff. and
Right.
there's
So
nothing
then we
to
tried to develop
attenuate,
programs
yeah.
for the homeowners to help, but when everyone in the subdivision adds on, if they go over that limit, even if they put in rain barrels or small on-site things, you've still got that overall problem in that watershed of that runoff not being attenuated. You can still have those downstream impacts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. That was a much better explanation than I gave. So that's the 6,000 square foot lot per lot minimum criteria. Then we talk about quantity. So a lot of times the BUA is quantity and quality, but we're going to talk about specifically quantity design. You see in the green there that in the environmentally sensitive area, ESA, and in Middle Creek, this was added by U.S. Fish and Wildlife, we're proposing an attenuation from the 1-year storm up to the 100-year storm for new development. We had some back and forth with Fish and Wildlife about Middle Creek and what they wanted, but we finally were able to negotiate just the attenuation and not necessarily expanded buffers like they were talking about to begin with. All other areas of the county, the attenuation will be from the 1-year to the 25-year storm. So that should help us with system flooding, ditch flooding, property flooding, and some stream flooding as well. Item 3 up here, yes.
So before you move, so number 2, prior to the 100-year attenuation, there was no, if I'm looking at the little table, there was no storm event at all. This is,
If you stayed under that.
When I'm looking at this table, there's nothing.
Yes. Yeah, and that was.
24, okay.
And that was required by the Neuse rules. The Neuse rules have taken that out. So there is no more attenuation criteria in the Neuse rules. They were using it as a water quality design tool. But there's not even the 1-year 24-hour storm in the Neuse rules anymore.
But they were exempted from the 1 year if they were under that 15%
Right.
residential as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that storm, as I recall, is roughly about 2.75 inches. You can get that in a good thunderstorm.
Yeah, so yes, there are many ways to slice hydrology, and you can get it in minutes or you could get it in 24 hours.
Yes.
And so the designs are the 24-hour designs. But yes, you can get the same equivalent intensity in just a few minutes. Yeah. Any other questions about the design, the 1 through 100, 1 through 25? And so the third one here is where we are trying to identify a simplistic method of not having attenuation on very small developments. And so, or not having like a dry pond or detention, attenuation of some sort. So is that based upon a minor subdivision? Is it based upon a number of lots? We're still collecting some feedback from the stakeholders about what that trigger should be, how low it should be, what should be exempt. It's really clear on non-single-family residential developments. If you add 10,000 square feet or less BUA, you are exempt. Okay, and, well, that's correct. You're exempt from attenuation. Okay. So triggers for a stormwater plan. Now remember, stormwater is both quantity and quality. So there are all kinds of triggers in here. When do you have to submit a plan? And in that plan, do I have to do water quality? Do I have to do attenuation? Okay, so what constitutes, what requires, what are the triggers for a stormwater plan? And that's here in reds. That means it comes from the Neuse rules. We can't monkey with that too terribly much. Anytime you have single-family residential development that disturbs 1 acre or more, you are required to have a stormwater management plan. You may not be required to do attenuation. You may not be required to do nitrogen loading, but you are required to do a stormwater plan to show that you're not tripping those. Now, if you're disturbing less than an acre on one lot, but it's part of a larger common plan of development, think about a subdivision, then that does kick you in. That is disturbing greater than an acre, and it is part of a larger common plan of development, and it is a trigger for a stormwater plan.
Is 1 spade in the ground disturbing?
Removing trees is disturbing. Removing ground covers is disturbing. So technically, yes.
Okay.
Non-single-family residential development, if you have a half an acre or more disturbed, then you're required to have a stormwater management plan. And there's another qualifier in there of a density of 24%. So the way that the state rules identify low density and high density, anything less than 24% is considered low density in their rules. Anything over 24% is considered high density. And that kicks in a couple of additional treatment requirements, such as if I have either single-family residential or non-single-family residential that trips that 24%, the first thing that I've got to do when it comes to water quality is treat my runoff with a primary stormwater control measure, which would be a wetland or a wet pond. Okay, those are considered primary. Dry ponds, we see a lot of that right now for attenuation and only attenuation. That is considered a secondary device. So if we're getting more into that high-density development, we're going to be seeing more wetlands and wet ponds as well. And that also is beneficial when we talk about attenuation, because you can do attenuation in any of those, actually. So we talked a little bit about eliminating the land dedication program. Right now, the existing requirement is if you have single-family residential that is 12% in the ESA or 15% everywhere else, and you go over that, you are subject to attenuation, and you're also subject to land dedication. And non-single-family residential, that criteria is 50 to 60%. Now, what we're proposing is to remove land dedication and increase the single-family residential maximum built-upon area to 30 to 40%, depending on the area that you're in, with no land dedication or payment, and non-single-family residential up to 80% with no land dedication or no payment. So that's just removing that additional step in our process.
So, under the Fish and Wildlife Agreement, have we agreed already? Is that where we agreed to remove? So
Yeah.
that's that was done last year. Okay.
That was done. Yeah.
I don't want to take us back, but just real quick on these ponds, again, because I deal with these all the time in my day job. Has there been, I'm assuming, just some collaboration with Braston and Planning and Zoning and what the requirements are going to be for these ponds to make sure they don't become just pools and pits in the middle of communities?
We do require that they are designed, installed, and maintained. So the design comes up front, installation. We're also incorporating an as-built certification process to make sure that it's correctly installed. With the plans, with the documentation, there's a maintenance agreement that goes with the land, not necessarily with the owner, but with the land. And a lot of these developments are doing an HOA. The developer starts it, sets up the HOA, turns the HOA over to the actual homeowners associations. And so there is a requirement that agreement's in place and that maintenance is done. Annual inspections are required, and it has to be done by a qualified individual, which is somebody who's taken certain courses at NC State.
What's the compliance rate on the annual inspections? Because actually, I thought one of the pictures was just the grown-up,
That's
the
a
wet
wetland.
pond. I thought it was a grown-up wet pond. I've seen the, I saw that, but.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, what is our compliance percentage for that?
We do pretty well with that. I mean, we have to send reminders to somebody, but.
Hey, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Could you come up? Yeah, thank you.
We're killing Adam tonight.
Well, you might want to sit over there in Rick's spot.
Yeah, you
and
can't
talk to
leave.
Mike.
We did have to send out reminders on some of them, but we have a pretty good compliance rate right now, but we have to remember, most subdivisions have been designed in the past at 12 to 15%, and a lot of those are not going to have these attenuation facilities in the past. That's something that moving forward, we will have to ensure we keep a program where we keep these, this reporting requirement in place.
That's where I was going with that, because
Yeah.
unfortunately, although we are seeing much more HOAs, when they get turned over to the homeowners, it's just a whole different vibe when you turn it over to the homeowners versus it being with a management company. And my concern is you've got non-qualified individuals now in charge of something that is being mandated by the county and the state is one of my fears.
Wetland. They probably want to mow the wetland.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
I'm
We've had
also
questions.
thinking,
Especially
you know, and again, I'm getting in the weeds, literally, but I am concerned that they'll put some of these ponds at the beginning of a subdivision, and that's what they look like. You know, people assume it's a mosquito pit when you drive in, and it's, we have to be very thoughtful when we put these things in place to make sure that we are not creating more detriment to our communities.
And it's something, I think more management companies, more HOAs are becoming familiar with these. We get a lot of questions, more questions about them. Many of these who already have established processes because it's management companies that help multiple HOAs. Certainly, that's some of the larger subdivisions now, but it is becoming more prevalent and more knowledgeable for many people. And we'll just have to continue that public education message too.
Because I don't think HOA management companies are managed, if I'm not mistaken, unfortunately.
Well, hopefully the annual inspection, you know, getting those annual inspections in and us following up on that will help with that as well. Item 6 here has to do with the nitrogen caps. The caps that we had on nitrogen for buy down, that you had to treat so much before you could buy down anything. Those primarily existed in the ESA in the environmentally sensitive areas. So we had those caps included in the design for there. However, we've removed those caps. We're recommending the removal of those caps and instead simply allow the buy down or treatment down to the state required 3.6 pounds per acre per year. So it's not that we're doing away with any type of treatment. It's just removing one more criteria in there in the environmentally sensitive area since we are doing the 1 through 25 or the 1 through 100 year attenuation. We feel like that's a good option there. We have a lot of clarification on plan submittals that we're including in there. I'm not even going to try to go through some of those, but part of that has to do with the post-construction stormwater control as-built process to make sure that we've got a good product out there when it is turned over.
I have a question, sorry. For eliminating the land dedication program, how much money was that bringing in? Was it bringing in a lot or no?
So it's $10,000 an acre, or they could put land into the land dedication program.
Right. So was that really not being done or?
Most of the time, again, they were designing to stay below those limits of the 15% or 12% for residential and the same on the commercial side. We have very few participate in the program. We do have some funds that have been used. In fact, we've invested in several programs with the Triangle Land Conservancy, several projects we've worked with them on and contributed some money that was collected. So there are probably currently a few $100,000 in there. That we do have available that we can use with any of these future projects, such as Triangle Land Conservancy for conserved land conservation easements. But it is really not a routine. Most of our developments do not pay into that program. Most of our plans approve.
Well, I like the path Michelle is going down, and I think you were going down this path because we don't care as much about what it's making as much land as it is conserving. Right. So would it not be, and I don't mean to jump in your thoughts.
You're good.
But would it not be in our best interest to offer something as an option just to promote?
That was more of my concern, yeah.
So the issue that we had with the land conservation program, that the way it was written into our design manual was if a developer exceeded whatever those limits were and they decided to participate in the program. The program was intended for the developer to be able to acquire land and put it in a conservation easement.
Right.
In a certain watershed, in the same watershed as their development. The problem is, just anyone can't establish a conservation easement and maintain it. You have to go through an agency such as Triangle Land Conservancy or some other, certified conservation company. And the county can't hold that easement. So what they have done is really just tried to avoid participating in the program. But so we weren't getting all of these areas of land conserved in those same watersheds as to where the development occurred.
Okay.
And it says clearly that the funds have to be used to acquire land in a permanent conservation easement. So we've just been able to participate like with Triangle Land Conservancy in those. And we still have that, some remaining funds available to do that. But because the land dedication program, once they tripped into that, they were also tripping into attenuation. They were avoiding both of those. So we were trying to come up with a way to continue to protect the watershed, protect the downstream users, ensure they are implementing something to provide that protection in that same watershed, in that same drainage basin. And that attenuation seems to do that better than them being able to try to find some other land to buy and conserve.
Okay.
And one of
Because
the
you're getting that local protection there.
Right.
Right.
I guess my brain was going through thinking about local developers, and they do buy tracts in similar areas because it's easier for them to develop. And there's, going to be some parts of this land that are not as
desirable.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm just thinking what a great way to keep, some of that land around these developments that we know are coming,
Right.
to be able to buy that land to be conserved.
When a stormwater management plan is approved, when we start looking at the uses and how they do the nitrogen export, there is typically a portion of that land that cannot be used for development. There are areas that have to be environmentally protected because of wetlands or buffers or
riparian
floodplains.
streams, yeah.
And they keep that in open space. But that open space is not the same as a permanent conservation easement. So that's still there and that's still occurring.
Okay.
But
I was just thinking, would it make sense to give the option to take it a step further? Just because I'm not just talking about wetlands, but just where bad soils are and things like that, where it's like, we could create some of these buffer zones if, I don't know.
In the
And I'm not
past,
trying
they
to do
tried
your
to
job,
double
I
count
promise.
it, though. That's the thing. What we've had is, for the nitrogen export calculations, there are certain factors based on whether the land's being used or whether it's permanently protected open space in a riparian buffer, and they need all of that in order to offset their nitrogen calculations. So what they try to do is double count and say, well, I'll use this as permanent conservation, but it needs to be in addition to the development most of the time, and that's where we've struggled with it. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
We've also had a hard time, or we've heard from the development community that the small areas, and I mean by small, maybe 10 acres, the Triangle Land Conservancy doesn't take that over.
Right.
They want larger tracts
Yeah.
of land.
That's true.
So
Yeah.
the conservation easement, that idea
Yeah.
is great, the concept is great. But if the Land Conservancy, had all these small areas, then they would have all the upkeep that came with that. And
Right.
So they're even talking with them they've said they don't take small tracts.
They have certain specific projects
Right.
that we can use the funds to participate in, but then that might not be in the same watershed and protect that same area. That's what it rolls back to.
So-
I hear you. I'm
know
just trying to
also-
figure out why you take it away completely if there's an opportunity that it would work. I hear what you're saying, like it's
Right.
not ideal, but I feel like if it's only going to be ideal under certain circumstances, why remove it? Why eliminate it instead of it being like not your best option, but when I'm big picture thinking, it does seem like a great option to create more, I don't know.
So, and I know Braxton is not here to talk about this, but under the conservation developments that we're proposing, I think in some of our rules, will this not be able to address some of that where you have the density, but you have the, I want to say, open space, now conservation? Is that possible in those,
So
that
one
type
of
of
the other
development?
things that Chandra was kind of getting at, when you have these areas, bad soils or floodplain or wetlands or stream buffers or whatever, the developers use that in offsetting the nitrogen loading. And so you can have a lot of density over here, but you still look at it for the entire development, the entire tract. And so you would be double counting if you took this and calculated it as open space in your nitrogen calculations, but then you removed it from the entire development and put it into a conservation easement, because you'd be double counting that.
How do you treat for the nitrogen goals?
Wet ponds,
When you say,
stormwater.
you're talking about reaching a goal of like 3.6
Right.
pounds per acre?
Pounds per acre.
You're not adding something to the soil or anything?
No, sir. No, sir, we've already done that.
Right.
I just know also
Yeah.
that the stormwater is a key topic at the planning board meetings when it comes for a subdivision, so.
I'm sure. Good discussion. Any other questions on land dedication? All right, so other things that we're going to kind of button up, just clarifying the conversion bonds where you have a sediment pond or a sediment basin that's going to be converted into an attenuation pond, and performance guarantees, the as-built certification process. Item 10 is kind of getting to your annual inspections on stormwater control measures and really ramping that up as well. And then we do have to marry the existing county riparian rules with the updated state rules. And that's just basically taking theirs and inserting it into the county process. So those are the big changes. You guys have an at-a-glance table to look at for what those changes are. And I think that's the easiest way to look at this, really, because there's so many changes. But we wanted to let you know where those changes are actually coming from. So it is local recommendations to address a lot of the flooding and the complaints we get about flooding. Then state Neuse rules, both for stormwater and for the Neuse buffer, and then the federal Fish and Wildlife Service.
And when will these take effect?
So we're in process now. I'm not sure that we've determined the date of the effect. Maybe if we can get things in gear July 1, but we've got to go through our review process, and then, of course, the public hearings here. We'll come before you for hearings before that. I don't know if it's doable for July 1. We'll see.
2 questions. We've got an email and a couple comments, just concerns, especially from the development community with regards to how much of this is being mandated by the state and how much of this is proactivity on our part.
So everything that was red and green in there is mandated by U.S. Fish and Wildlife or with the state.
Right.
And that has to do with water quality, that has to do with buffers, that has to do with the triggers for a stormwater management plan. The things that, and Fish and Wildlife has attenuation criteria in it as well. So the majority of everything that we're doing, with some recommendations for like the 1 to 25, for everywhere else, the attenuating the 1 year through the 25-year storm event. In the county's jurisdiction, that is our local recommendation, and then the 1 through 100 is what we have in the ESA. And we did ask for, in our stakeholders meeting, we asked for comments to hear from everybody else, because these are very complex overlapping requirements that we're trying to simplify as much as possible.
That was going to be my next question, is what does the rollout look like of this? Because, and that was one of the biggest concerns I heard from some of those same people that went to the stakeholder meeting, is the amount of change.
Yeah.
It seems like you now just have the one, outside looking in, it looks like you just now have the one option for the most part, which is putting in these ponds, just putting it in layman's terms. And so do you feel like that's accurate? Like that's the only option we really left them to?
To meet attenuation and water quality, and to meet the goals of those other agencies, as well as some of the things we've heard from locally, our recommendations. Yeah, I think it will be ponds.
Okay. And what does a rollout of this look like?
Rollout time-wise?
Well, rollout as far as when, for things that are already in process or
Yeah,
things that come,
that was
how,
another one of my
I
questions.
just want to make sure that there's, like you said, there's a lot of moving parts in
Yeah.
this, that we don't want it to, y'all know, stuff gets to planning and they miss one part and it comes back on your desk and vice versa. I just
Yeah, that
wanna-
was one of my questions.
So there are some grandfathering criteria.
Okay.
But that would be prior to the ordinance period. So I believe what's been done in the past is if there's any approval that's been issued by the planning board,
Okay.
then it's considered grandfathered or exempt from the
Okay.
new requirements. They'll still
That-
fall under the old requirements.
Okay, that was my
Yeah.
question, was like, let's say something comes to the planning board in June, is that subdivision now gonna all of a sudden have to be under these new that come in July 1? Okay.
No.
Okay. Does that help answer your question, April? Okay.
I had a question. Do we have enough staff for the annual inspections, and will there be any fees associated with those
So
inspections?
I want to go one beyond that, just inspections. So we have, you know how many calls we get about stormwater. And I know we have some staff, but I don't think we have enough staff. So, and I know we've got an enterprise fund that's set up as that, but to me, this is an area we not even look at compliance, but the plan reviews and the whole 9 yards.
We do have two positions that were approved with the budget this past year, so we have two positions that we can fill to aid with this, and we do intend to fill those to assist with this. As far as inspections, those are required to be done by a certified professional by the responsible party. So the owner, the property owner, would have that inspection done, and they are required to submit that certification to the county, and then we would check and make sure it's there. Now, we may go out and inspect some if we're concerned or we receive a complaint, but we would not be going to each one of those every year.
So two positions since last July means you have the same problem the entire engineering community has. Just there's not enough available people to fill the positions.
Could be the case, but we've not advertised those positions yet. We've been looking at structuring those, and we've got this, the new project management software that's coming out for the land use center, our permitting software, it's going to be a great, I think, connection between departments, between planning, inspections, public utilities, environmental health. This permitting software, I think, will be helpful in us being able to manage these and making sure we understand where each project is and our requirements, do they conflict with somebody else's requirements, like you were saying. I think it'll be certainly helpful with that, but we've been waiting a little bit on that and know a little more about that to determine how we structure these positions.
Okay.
But they'll likely be advertised very soon, probably within the next 6 months.
So it'll be next year. So that's, and I understand the planning, but it's not, it didn't just start last year. I mean, so I would say we need to focus on hiring. If we approve positions, then that means we want you to hire people for those positions. So let's get that done so that we can cut down on your stress level and the calls that we get and the calls we get from neighbors complaining about.
And we have
all that.
to understand too, we get a lot of calls, we get a lot of complaints regarding stormwater. Some of those are ones that we can address because it is related to new development. But there are ones that we get that they're not under our stormwater ordinance. It's not something that we can do under our ordinance to correct. We try to help people, and we try to go out and give, visit every site that complains to see if there is anything that we can do. And if we can't do it through an enforcement, is there a recommendation we have, someone else we can refer them to? But there are quite a few of these we get that are something that's occurred for years before our stormwater program, not related to new development or simply property owner disputes.
Yeah, we've had those come before us here many times recently as well, so, but that predate the stormwater.
But we do go investigate each one of those that we receive.
And I guess the other thing with the land use ordinance update
That was
is
another
making sure that we coordinate and those two together so that
Yes, that was
we
my
find minimal conflicts as we're sitting there to find out there's
and
conflicts.
we'll be working with planning on that. I think our updates are a little bit ahead of what's happening with the rest of the land use ordinance, and we've talked internally a little about, do we wait, do we hold off and do it all at once, or do we go ahead and move forward with the stormwater stuff? But, I would recommend we go ahead and move forward with the stormwater piece, but of course, we still have time. We've not implemented it yet. We're still taking stakeholder comment. We're doing legal reviews of the proposed ordinance. Then we'll have a public hearing, and then we can decide after that about the adoption and implementation date. And at that point, maybe the land use piece will also be further along to be able to compare and make sure we're consistent.
So how many, I know we've had a lot of folks at the stakeholders meeting. We've all heard a lot. How many folks have taken the time to send in written comments that we can actually
3?
act on?
Yeah, she got 2 or 3. I got 1 phone call, so it's been very
I think
minimal.
we have one to us, so the important thing, there still is time to receive comments.
Yeah, we will
Okay.
still
Yeah.
take comments from interested parties, certainly, and do what we can to address those.
I have a question I'd like to ask about the enforcement of this. You say the homeowner will be responsible for getting the annual inspections and having that sent in.
Homeowner association,
Pardon?
the homeowner association.
Homeowner association.
Whoever's the responsible party is for that development and for the devices implemented and constructed for that.
So this is not a singular homeowner responsibility.
No, it should not be a singular homeowner responsibility.
And what is the penalty if the homeowner association does not comply with this reporting requirement or inspection requirement?
We'll have to look at our ordinance and see what the recommendation is on how we adopt the ordinance. I'm not certain how we have that in there right now, but I know we give them, we give them time. We give them multiple opportunity to get it addressed currently.
We would get injunctive relief from the court to assist with that.
That was going to be one of my questions. I just know how many HOAs decide to fold up at the end of the day. And we're talking, just again, for everybody, and put it in layman's terms, percentage-wise of the subdivisions that you guys look at and approve now, how many are going to be affected by this change? How many more ponds do you foresee us seeing?
Well, new subdivisions, it would be any of those with more than however many lots, with probably subdivisions with more than, it depends on where we set that limit. That's one thing we're working with the community on is, where do we put that limit? Do we set attenuation at 7 lots, 10 lots, 15 lots? Where do we set that limit? So anything over that number of lots, the subdivision would have attenuation requirements.
And that's one of the reasons I asked, just again, with my other hat of my day job.
Certainly.
The ones that I deal with, you've got to have an HOA with residents of size for there to be funds to pay for what this will require.
And it will be much more attenuation than what we see now in Johnston County. But for many of these builders and developers, that's what they're doing in other jurisdictions already. They're used to it. But you're correct. It's important to structure that HOA or the management property management company to ensure they understand and follow through with that.
I just don't want to set homeowners up for failure,
Right.
These rules, if you have a situation where one homeowner is saying that runoff from his neighbor is adversely affecting his property, can these rules be a basis to go in and say, well, that the offending party here does not have enough storm attenuation, attenuation features on his property if they don't meet a certain criteria?
So what we would do is look to see that the property that's being pointed at is causing the problem. Are they in compliance with our stormwater management ordinance? If they're in compliance, then there's really nothing else we can do. And sometimes the damage on their property is a subjective thing. It may not appear to be a problem to one person, but it is a problem to another person.
Right.
If we can show that that other property is in compliance, there's not a lot that we can do if they're compliant with our ordinance, and then it becomes a civil matter between those property owners.
But if they're not in compliance, then you can bring them up to compliance.
That's correct. If they were subject to our ordinance, then we would follow enforcement
Okay.
for our ordinance.
That's a good question, because not a lot of people realize they start moving dirt in their backyard, that it was designed for a reason to be, so that especially if you've seen some of the ones that are stacked on top of each other, and the yards flow a certain way. Some people love to go
A lot
build.
of people know that. That's
Yeah,
Well,
It's my yard, and I'm gonna do what
I'm
I
going to build a retaining wall, and I'm going to put this here and there, and they don't understand they've disturbed the flow that her office designed for the developer, and then that's a lot of the reasons we get phone calls.
But then, we only have authority to go back to the developer or the builder or whoever had that stormwater permit under our ordinance. If the property owner chooses to modify their property, there's not a lot we can do at that point. It is civil.
So I want to make sure, so the colors in here were by other agencies that require that?
Green is by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and the red is state rules.
Okay,
Yes.
and the black, that leaves,
That was
the black
us,
is
yes,
us, okay.
local.
Is that the same as this?
I don't know that had color on
It doesn't have color. I was going to say, could we get color
Certainly.
that to help?
Yes, we can color code that.
Those of us who prefer this to this.
I like this better. I'm a pretty person. I'm a pretty picture person.
Well, I like colors,
Chart.
but I just don't like a lot of.
We will add color to that chart.
Yeah, yeah.
I like everything about the pictures of the grown-up ponds you showed, because
Well, there's a bunch
I
of
get.
pine trees around those ponds, and that's what I was wondering how that was maintained.
Can you email it to us?
Yes.
Yeah, even better.
Yeah,
Yes,
we can,
thank you.
we'll update it and send that out to be emailed.
Okay, yeah.
Thank y'all for answering all our questions.
Yeah, yeah.
And all of
Did
your work
anybody
on
have
this.
any questions that we did not ask?
It couldn't be.
Could be.
That was a lot of stormwater.
Sorry.
So thank you for that. And again,
I feel like I just
know
sat through a planning board meeting.
as we're looking and we see the impacts of the stormwater, and particularly as it gets to this area in the central and the flooding that comes from that I don't think we're going to hear any less about stormwater in the future. It's just going to continue to grow and require more attention
Oh, yeah.
and
Well-
more staff.
And I
to
think
help
the fact
address
that
it.
we're doing it, sorry, not to interrupt you, hand in hand with the land use plan is going to be, I think it's perfect timing for what we're
Yes.
doing.
Okay.
We may have lost all our YouTube viewers, but it was interesting.
So some of them are, I think that's what the Neuse Charter people just don't know how lucky they are they got out here. You would still be here, I think. You would still be
Should have
here.
left with the others.
If anybody's still on YouTube, they deserve something special.
Yeah. We'll give them a ticket to the next showing in March. All right, so we will move on to Brian, and we're going to have a solid waste, a MSW landfill 6B cell phase capital project
That was fun.
budget.
Wait for this.
So Peter Shear is here to update us on that, so
Good evening.
you got to
Good
step
see
back
you
and
all.
follow. We probably don't have as many questions for you.
Probably not, but yeah, it is a very challenging topic, so, it's tough all the way around. But here tonight to present the results for our recent bid for landfill expansion, where we need to construct a new area because all landfills run out of space eventually, so we'll be short on space later this year, so we need to go ahead and build this next area, which is basically a second part of the last expansion that was built, started back in 2020, 6A. So the 6B expansion, about 7.5 acres. Received bids on January 30th, and we received 6 valid bids. We actually had one that was non-responsive. They didn't sign the bid. I believe you saw some correspondence from county attorney and county manager on that. So that was a bit of a unique situation, but unfortunately they were non-responsive. So our low bidder was Shamrock Construction and Remediation. This is actually the same group that built Phase 6A of the landfill. They also did a prior project for Johnston County a number of years ago at the landfill. We work with them elsewhere, so they're certainly well qualified. We actually had a whole group of well qualified bidders on this. The pricing, the low bid was $3,552,158. Was a good bit below our estimate, but that estimate was based on some average bid prices from recent projects we've bid elsewhere, so we don't try to be the low bidder on our estimates. So that was an excellent price. They're very well qualified. We certainly recommend that the county proceed with Shamrock construction remediation. We've included a 5% additional contingency in case certain items come up. So we have a total bid, or a total budget recommended of $3,729,158. And there any questions?
All right, any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt the capital project budget and award the Johnston County MSW Landfill Phase 6B project to Shamrock Construction Remediation, amount of $3,552,158.
I second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
And one question.
Yes, sir.
What, could you just briefly, what is entailed in a landfill expansion?
This particular expansion, it's mostly earthwork and geosynthetics. So with our modern landfills, they have a liner system on the bottom. Basically, we build up the subgrade, then we put a soil liner component in. Then we have a bentonite material, a geosynthetic clay liner that we put on top of that. And then on top of that, we have a thin high-density polyethylene geomembrane. And then on top of that, we've got a drainage system. So with all that layering, then we can collect the leachate, the water that flows through the waste, and then get it out of the landfill, and then we take it to the treatment plant.
About how deep is all that?
How deep is the liner system itself? So you have 1.5 feet of soil liner, and then 2 feet of cover on top of that. And but then our subgrade is varying thickness depending on where we are.
Okay.
Does this have anything to do with the methane collection, or is that at the closing of the cell?
That's more operations and closure, but the collection system for the landfill gas, so the methane, they'll be able to tag into our leachate collection pipes that come out of the landfills. So,
Okay, I get you.
All right, I did have one quick question. So we're working on getting the aerial photograph up, but I was going to ask where 6B was in the landfill, just to get a.
6B is.
Hopefully she'll have something for you to point to, hopefully here.
6B is on the south side of 6A and on the west side of Phase 5.
You still talking?
There we go.
Something, I don't have any idea where any of those are, so.
All right. So the area on the left there, you see that? Thank you. So this is Phase 6A.
Okay.
And 6B is going to go in this area here. And those 6A already connects with Phase 5, which was built back in the 90s. And so once we get done with 6A is being filled now, and then we'll construct 6B, about 7.5 acres, and then beyond that, we'll move in this direction. I think we're going to do Phase 7 will be roughly here, 8, and then 9 up this way, and then 10 finally back this way. Hopefully we have a number of decades
So
left to go.
is right now,
So
the Phase 10 is the last phase?
Phase 10 is the last lateral expansion, correct, yeah.
Okay.
Hopefully it'll be a while. So,
All right. Very good. Thank you.
thank you very much.
Hang on, I don't
Did
remember
we
where
vote?
we were. No, I don't think we did. I think we had a question.
We're going to make
Yeah.
it,
Yeah, we had a motion and a second, I think.
Yeah.
So now I'm finished asking questions. So all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. All right, we did have the votes tallied for the appointment to the Economic Development Advisory Board, and for Archer Lodge, Clyde Castleberry was appointed, and we do need to, when we make the motion, waive the requirement for length of service. And then also for Selma, Joseph Lee Scarborough was appointed, and for Clayton, Joseph Stallings was appointed.
Mr. Chairman, I move we waive the length of service policy requirement
All right.
those needed.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second for to approve those three with Mr. Castleberry's waiver?
Second.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? All right, that brings us to our manager report and comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. I've just got two items. One is, just wanted to follow up from the last board meeting about the Phase 2 of the CAB grant, which is broadband grants. So those came from federal dollars and administered by the state. You may recall we have the Great Grant project with Brightspeed going on now. This Phase 2 of the CAB projects, there's no county match. But we're in the phase now of moving that forward. The question that each county is responding to the state is, how involved are we on the details of these decisions? The state will select who the providers are. And so my recommendation is that we let the state broadband staff do their job, bring that selection to Johnston County, and let us give them their feedback. The other option was us be involved in all the technical details of it, and then there was another option of no participation, and I think we need to be involved. But I would suggest that there's no objections that we go with option 2, if anybody has.
Is that consensus for the board? I think.
It is, I think so.
Okay.
And I'll be glad to keep the board
All right.
posted on that process. I'm excited to get that program going.
Okay.
The second thing is, I think Ms. Farmer left, but she, our staff's been working on a long-range water supply for Johnston County, which involves the abandoned quarry that the county purchased many years ago in the Princeton area. And so just to go back and refresh on all the potential short-term options that we might have, interim options to possibly push that project back some. We have been discussing with J.D. Solomon, who y'all are familiar with, who actually worked with us on a regionalization project, to have an agreement with him to work with us on re-examining all the potential options that might push back that long-term supply that I think will have to happen one day. And time is short on it, but so I'd like to just make the board aware of that. If there are no objections, we'd like to have an agreement with JD to work with us, and I think he'll move forward on looking at options with partners and just update everything and report back to the board. So if there are no objections, I just wanted to.
Any issues with proceeding in that direction?
Nope.
All right.
Okay. That's all I have.
Okay.
Thank y'all.
All right, thank you. All right, so which end do I start at? Commissioner Stevens, we'll start with you tonight.
I don't have anything earth-shattering to report. A couple things. Did have a chance to meet with the Clayton Chamber on Friday and was very, they wanted to hear kind of what we're excited about to talk about at our upcoming board retreat, which I know you're going to talk about, and then was able to attend the Harbor Gala this past weekend, and they had another sold-out gala, and of course gave kudos to you for speaking last year, and so just another organization I'm grateful that we have in this county and grateful that we support and all the work that they do.
Thank you. Commissioner Rose.
Commissioner Davis and I were able to attend JCC today and meet with Dr. Lindquist and all his people and board of trustees, and we had a very good visit. Got to tour the campus, and I was very impressed with everyone's professionalism, and the campus was impeccably kept. It was beautiful. I mean, everything was manicured, and all the buildings looked wonderful, and I was very, very impressed.
All right, thank you very much. Commissioner Godwin, I'm going to jump over to you.
I've got a question for the attorney. Maybe last meeting before, I raised a question about gaining support of the board to name the bridge over I-95 in Micro for Dr. James Batten. And I don't remember if we've concluded what we need to do here to generate that resolution or support. Jennifer, do you recall where we're at on that?
To the best of my recollection, no. We would need to have the board adopt a resolution.
Okay.
And we could certainly do that at the board's next meeting if you're so inclined.
Can we do it tonight?
I was gonna say typically we
Have it
don't
in
hear
front of
something and act on it, but I would say if she wants to prepare one and then we'll do one, is there a time?
Well, no, I've been working with the town of Micro, and I've received the package of information from the DOT, and we've about got everything together. I've got half a dozen recommendation letters, and the funding is lined up. And I didn't want us to be the holdup one.
Okay.
Mr. Godwin, if they don't require a resolution, we could do a letter of support. I'm not
I think the letter
sure.
of support would, I'll go back and check the rules. They were very specific. you know,
Okay.
So we're not initiating, somebody else has, and we're just,
The town of Micro. would
okay,
support
yeah,
that.
so I think, yeah, if you want to draft, if we can draft something up, get it to us to look at, then I don't mind us going ahead and doing that.
Yeah, if a letter of support would be acceptable, we could go ahead and get that done.
Okay. All right, that'd be great.
Okay.
And the other thing, again, I don't want to come across as an ogre, but I'm pledged to look after taxpayers' dollars. When I look around the room tonight, except for Linwood Parker, I'm probably the oldest guy in the room. He left. But maybe it's because I've lived through a difficult times, all the way back to wage and price controls under President Nixon. But I will always look out for the taxpayers' dollars, and I don't diminish the role that our college has in this county. It's a gem. And I think it's played a great role in us being able to land some of the economic development projects that we have through that Workforce Development Center. So I'll continue to always be a supporter, but always will also continue to look out for the taxpayers.
Yeah, I think you raised some good questions tonight, again, on a relatively new program in the Commissioner's Promise, and also making sure on the CCP that we're making sure we're accounting for where the funds are coming from and then where they're going to and all that.
Yeah. One last thing. I was in the car today. My wife was riding with me to take grandkids to track practice, and I called Director of Finance, Chad McClam, to ask a question about some information on the school system budgets. And it was in no time he called me back. My wife was there, and she said, "Boy, that was fast." She said he must have jumped right on it. I said, "I suspect he called one of his people." And I said, and he's got some very good people. So congratulations, Chad.
All right. Commissioner Stovall?
Mr. Chairman, I have nothing new I want to report tonight.
All right. Commissioner Davis?
I had the privilege last week of attending, or no, it was this week. No, last week. All things running together. It's been a crazy whirlwind of being with the Johnston County Heritage Center, and they are having a movie screening of the documentary of Fat Boy, the Billy Stewart story. That was free to the public next week in conjunction with Black History Month. So I was just passing on that information that was discussed and announced at the Heritage Center meeting we had last week.
Thank you. Vice Chairman Harris?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a few items. Continuing to work with the Johnston County Fire Commission on the changes that are being made for the fire service, and it's very positive. They will be coming back to the board with some recommendations to continue this evolution of change that we've initiated with the fire service here in the county. They also held their Johnston County Firemen Association had their annual memorial service yesterday, and I was there. Commissioner Godwin was there, and it was just a really nice service commemorating the firefighters that have passed in 2024. So just a real nice ceremony there. Dr. Linquist is here with us for the college, and we had a good meeting a week or so ago. I'm like Michelle, it's all starting to run together. But and one of the things that we're having is a challenge with growth in the community college is amazing, but it comes with challenges. And so one of the challenges that we've identified is that our public safety folks are not able to get the training that they need when they need it because they're short of staff. And so that being said, the way the system works, and Dr. Linquist can explain this much better than I can, but the way the system works, you might go on up here because I'm going to stumble all over this. The way it works is the FTEs that are generated this year, it's next year or even the year after before you actually see those. So you're running in arrears at all times. So you take that and run with it for a minute and explain it to folks, and then I'll go back.
I will do my level best to explain a system that I barely understand myself.
I feel better then. I don't understand it either.
When powers that be instituted the finance system for the community colleges, they modeled it on the four-year campus model. So basically, you count up how many equivalent students full-time that you have on your campus last year, and that's the amount of money you'll get based on some formula for the upcoming year. For a four-year campus, that's not a problem because four-year campuses decide how big their freshman classes will be, so they know exactly how many students they're going to have every year. That is not something that is true for the community college system. Our enrollments can go up sometimes pretty spectacularly, which is a great thing. It means that we're serving our mission, but it does mean that in a year when my enrollment goes up 15%, I have to teach those students and serve them in all of the ways that we serve them with the same amount of money we had the prior year. If you add to that the occasional difficulties that we have in getting a state budget passed on time, it may be that we have even more students on campus than the current year's increase, and still no increase. For instance, this fall, we had about 30% more students than we did 2 years prior, but because the budget wasn't getting passed on time, we were still working on 2 years ago money. Makes it incredibly difficult for us to do the kind of hiring we need in all areas. And we really got to wait until the money comes in before we can extend job offers to folks. So we do have needs in a number of different areas, but we did identify that in public safety, if we had 3 more positions, we would be treading water. That is, we would be able to do what we need to do at the current levels. Our folks in many areas, public safety included, are doing a double duty, and we're really at the breaking point.
So I think what really got the alarm sounded is when we had local departments that needed training, and they're just not able to do it. They're just not able to provide anymore. And Dr. Lindquist and the folks out there have started having to say no to our local departments. And so we're really concerned with that. So after some good discussion with his folks, and we looked at this as a possibility. They need 2 EMS instructors. One's an instructor clinical coordinator, and the other one is an instructor. And then there's a criminal justice instructor slash in-service coordinator. And those 3 positions would, like he said, let them tread water a little bit better. But the thought is, if those positions were in place, then the additional funds would come because they're able to take on additional classes, right? So I would like for the county to step up and provide funding for those 3 positions for 12 months, a limited time, and then let the FTEs or the funding from the college take over that and continue those on. And really all it is giving them a chance to get ahead of the game, because their funding is always in arrears. So I don't know how you ever supposed to get ahead of the process without having some kind of injection like this to do this. But it was really concerning to me that we got a fire department that's needing EMS training, that's might have to possibly go to Cumberland County or somewhere like that to get it. I know Benson's needing some. Cleveland Fire Department's already sending some folks out of county to get some training. So it's really a concern, and I know the local fire chiefs have had some meetings about this and having some discussions. I talked to a couple of those folks this morning, and so I would like for us to consider doing this and providing that 12-month window. And then I think, Dr. Johnston, you feel confident, or Dr. Lindquist, you feel confident that you can throw something at me if you want to. That you can take over the funding for those positions in the subsequent years.
It would be. It wouldn't be for a 12-month period. It would have to be for, if you're going to start the funding now, it would have to be for when the new fiscal year starts. So it might be a few more months before that happens. But okay. Yeah, we fully expect that the funding should start to catch up at the state level, assuming lots of things that I really don't have any control over. So I believe we can do this. The system office does not really give us any solid guidance about what our budget's going to look like, though, for another few months. If passed as prologue, we should be okay.
Okay. And incidentally, I have had conversations with our senator and with one of our representatives, just to make them aware of the situation. They were very concerned about the fact that our departments were not able to, get the training that they need here at the local community college. So I think they're going to be doing whatever their part is to try to make things look better. I don't know what the end result will be, but I know they're working hard to try to make things better as well. The total process for these positions, Dr. Lindquist provided that for me this afternoon. The total price would be $292,956, and it could be slightly less, but that includes salary, retirement benefits, FICA, and medical insurance for those 3 full-time positions. And chances are it would be a little less than that. But I'd just like the board to consider that. I know it's a little out of the ordinary, but
I've got a question,
yes, sir.
Commissioner.
Yes, sir.
At various meetings with the fire departments, they usually talk about their schedule, and someone would make a reminder that they've got training at the fire station or at some remote site the following Saturday. And sometimes I got the impression that they were bringing their own people in to train other people. Do they have certified trainers, within the fire service?
Well, typically, all the classes they run through Johnston Community College. Now, they may have it at their training.
I guess.
So like this class in Benson will be at Benson Fire Department, but Johnston Community College is going out and providing that training. So their coordinators are administering the classes, their instructors are teaching the classes, and so that's how that works. And the beauty of that is you're not emptying out someone's fire district. They're still there in their district and available for an emergency if something happens.
Right.
And so that's, it's hard to empty the whole department and bring them to the campus here in Smithfield.
I understand.
But that's how that works. But it is all running through our folks, and they're doing an extraordinary job. I will say that we are so blessed to have our public safety training out there is just top notch. And I think that's one of the reasons we've seen the numbers increase so dramatically. The other thing to remember with this is these students are not one and done. They don't finish, graduate, and move on. They have to have continuing education hours all throughout their career. So you may have a 25-year veteran in a department that still has to go out to Johnston Community College and get their training hours. So they're not done with those students when they finish up. So
No, indeed, if I could add something,
Please do.
As impressive as our enrollment numbers are on the credit side of the house, in these programs, in the single year in continuing education, we are up 36% this year from last year.
Wow.
So you're right. The interest in these programs is through the roof.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would just add a couple of things to that. One, public safety is one of our 6 board priorities, and the people just voted on spending $23 million for facilities for public safety, and the fact that they may have to go somewhere else to get their training is very concerning. So if we can stem that before it happens and people develop new habits, that keeping them here seems to be a big thing. And I know as we're looking at changing the way we do fire and have more permanent people and full-time people in employment, it just seems like this is a natural thing that makes a lot of sense. And with that, I would say typically, we've said it before tonight, is we don't hear something and vote on it, but if we could prepare an item for the agenda at our March 3rd, I'm assuming the morning meeting, that we could move forward on, I think that would be something that this board would definitely like to consider.
I would be very happy to be invited back.
Okay. All right.
Put it in your calendar. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, you didn't need a bigger hat after all.
Thanks for being patient, Doctor.
There you go. A couple of things on my end. One, we've had somebody that's been in the audience at least 3 meetings now, and haven't had any introduction, and they're not here just because they love the entertainment. So I'm going to ask our attorney, Jennifer Slusser, to make that introduction for us.
Good evening, and I thank Marie for being here tonight. Marie Mobley has been with my office for March 1st will be 1 year, and I hide her in the basement. Her office is downstairs, and she's doing a great job for Johnston County. She handles primarily our human services components, but with my schedule and some things that are going on with all the busyness that we have in Johnston County, she has volunteered to assist me on some general legal services matters, and I'm going to be out of town in March, and so she is observing and getting to know our projects and what we're doing a little bit more for my short March departure. But we are so pleased to have Marie with us tonight. I think the last time I brought her out of the basement was when she presented the child support resolution. And so we let her go to court, but that's about it. But I'm just kidding. Marie is wonderful, and we are so very fortunate to have her. So Marie Mobley, our Senior Assistant County Attorney.
Yes, it is. It's wonderful to be here, and actually, I am interested in a lot of things. I'll message Jennifer and tell her, I don't know why this appeals to me, because I've spent so much of my legal practice in family law and those sorts of things, but it is fascinating, and I'm just honored to work here, so thank you.
I hope it didn't scare you off tonight looking at the clock.
Yeah.
It is almost past my bedtime.
Mine too.
Yeah, we are.
It
Well, we're
is.
glad to have you and glad you're out of the probationary period and able to come out of the basement.
I'm not sure that has anything to do with my time out of the basement, but it is definitely as granted. We are very busy with the county, as I'm sure you know.
Yes.
If I could add, Marie has done an extraordinary job with DSS. That is a complex organization, as many of you know, and she has really made a wonderful effort there and has done a tremendous job. We appreciate you
I
being
appreciate you saying that.
part of that and part of the county as well.
Thank you.
You've got a great team and a great leader back there, and so we have great faith and confidence in you. But thank you for
Absolutely. Thank
a
you.
great job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you. Second thing I had was the State of the County address is now on our Facebook and YouTube channels, so you can go, if you missed it, you get a chance to go back and watch that. And the final thing is just a reminder that our board strategic planning session is this Thursday and Friday. We will begin the live stream at 9 o'clock in the morning. It will be at the Workforce Development Center in Clayton. We are watching the weather to see what Thursday morning brings to us, but right now we are planning to be there both days, and again, beginning at 9 o'clock.
I am.
And it will be live streamed, so you'll have another chance to see us on YouTube. That is all I have, and I hear a motion to
Move to adjourn.
Second. All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. We are adjourned.